Now Sweeney, Dwayne Sweeney! Sweeney's over!
Can you please hand it over to your captain, Dwayne Sweeney?
Welcome to Real Tales with Sweens. This episode I sit down with Matt Watson and discuss all things fishing and so much more. Matt has become a household name both here in New Zealand and abroad for his energetic presence on our media screens, hosting Ultimate Fishing TV. This episode is full of amazing content and some tales that us fishermen often dream about. From 17-hour swordfish battles to our involvement in Pack the Park and getting to play rugby alongside some of the true greats of the game. The passion that he has for the sport of rugby and the respect it teaches. His time working on Primetime with John Gregory and becoming one of New Zealand's premier game fishing boats. We also discuss his move from Primetime to work on the Ultimate Lady, what it was like to discover the Whanganella Banks for the first time, the need for recreational fishermen to tag more marlin, the balance of fishing for work and personal enjoyment with family and friends, his son Shaw's newfound love for fishing, tips and tricks, and so much more. As always, the show notes will be available on Instagram at Real Tales with Sweens and the website realtaleswithsweens.com. The website will have all the links to listen on your favourite platform, as well as some epic content from all the guests. The great people at Good George Brewing have a 15% discount available for all you listeners. Simply use the discount code REALTALES before checking out from their online store. The link for their website is available on the realtaleswithsweens.com homepage. Lastly, I want to say thanks to Matt for sitting down and sharing some amazing insight and tales from his incredible journey. So join me as we get to know the man, the face, and the person behind Ultimate Fishing TV. Enjoy the podcast.
Oh, cheers, bro. That's good.
Cheers. Yeah. Just sitting here with Matt Watson. So, g'day, Matt. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Hey, bro. Thanks for coming up.
Yeah, no, it's been cool. It was actually, I was lucky enough to go fishing with Matt yesterday. It's a bit of a, I suppose, almost like a childhood dream. Probably not childhood. Yeah. I think I was a teenager by the time the fishing show had started. But yeah, I've been a big fan since day dot, and I had a few jealous mates when I said that I was coming up here to go for a fish, especially sword fishing. So no, it's good. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, good one, mate. Like, glad to have you, to be honest, mate.
Yep. Pretty good day yesterday too. We managed to catch one. It was probably one of the easiest swordfish catches that I'm going to catch in my lifetime, I think.
Yeah. Well, you can. I mean, some fish you can't really do much with. You know, they're gonna just, they're not going to give you any opportunities. That one gave us an opportunity, and I've never been one. And not just fishing and anything to pass up an opportunity, especially if there's an opportunity to grab a hold of the leader and hold on. Hold on for grim death.
Yeah. So, that's cool. Talking about opportunities, that's probably something that we should talk about in terms of the Pack the Park game that we played in. So you got an opportunity to play alongside, a few of the greats of the game, myself excluded from that. But I was involved in that game down in Invercargill. How did that come about for you?
Well, you said before, childhood dream. My first choice growing up wasn't to be be doing a fishing show. I always knew I was going to be a fisherman. I mean, that was just from a fishing family. But my career was going to be, I was going to be an All Black. That's what I probably like most of the other kids that grew up in my era. I wanted to be an All Black. I wanted to be a great rugby player. This was in the days before Super Rugby and all that. But, I wanted to play for counties, and I was sort of always there or thereabouts at, schoolboy level.
Yep.
In and out of the sort of rep team or on the fringe of it, being picked as one of the extra guys that might get a game if someone gets injured sort of thing. But looking back, at the time I believed it, I believed I could have, but, man, I'm 70 kilos now and I was lighter then. So I was never going to be a great All Black. So, but then the opportunity to have actually a game of rugby with all of these guys, and yes, yourself included, mate, because I've, I'm Chief Mana hard, like hard out Chiefs fan. So, the opportunity to run out with you and all of these greats of the game was honestly like a childhood dream. And all I could think about was having beers in the sheds with you guys afterwards. That's what some of my fondest memories of rugby was the camaraderie. And I didn't play a lot once I got older. So I broke 19. I broke 11 bones before I got to under 19s playing rugby.
Wow.
Yeah, I had some real bad breaks. Some quite serious ones. So
Must have been a tough little bugger though.
I guess it was. You could say I was never too much scared of much.
Yeah. And
I've sort of had that my whole life. Like I'm scared of losing face much more than I'm scared of like hurting myself physically. If you know what I mean. Like I would much rather get flattened by a big guy than have someone notice that I shied away. Oh yeah. If you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's one of those things.
Sense.
And my dad used to say to me, my dad was a real good rugby player. He just said, your cuts and breaks will heal, but you don't want to be labelled a coward. That'll stay with you.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. But it must have been it must have been daunting because, like, as much as it would have been a dream come true, you're still playing with, or you're stepping into a physical battle with these guys that had done it their whole lives. And I didn't really put that into context either myself. Well, I suppose I was still nervous and anxious to play against these guys, even though these guys, some of them are 20 years out of the game maybe. Yeah. But I was still like in awe of, oh my God, like guys like Carlos Spencer and that running around. They were sort of, when I came into my professional career, because I came in young, a lot of those guys were in their prime or, just on the end of their careers. So I'd actually played against a lot of them before. But I was still super nervous to go out there. And then I actually thought about it when I got down there, and you'd start talking to all the other ex-rugby players, and they were all anxious and nervous. And then I'm thinking, man, imagine how the boys are feeling that have never played at that kind of level, that professional level. Yeah,
well, I know Bryce Casey. He was really nervous. So he got in touch with me, and he was really nervous. And to be honest, I wasn't that nervous about like the actual playing. And so, but I won't say I hammed it up, but I sort of made like I was a bit more apprehensive than I actually was.
Yeah.
I was just more excited than anything, Like I say, I can, and I've sort of had this my whole life. I can only see the good that can come from an opportunity. Like I never visualised myself once getting hurt. I never stopped to conceive that there's guys double my weight playing that have been doing this their whole lives, Like I don't even stop to sort of conceive that. All I could see was, me carving it up.
Yeah. And, a chance to tackle Carlos Spencer
and all of that sort of stuff. Yeah. It wasn't really until sort of we're running out and it was just like a packed stadium, and I was just like, wow. But again, I wasn't worried about getting hurt. I was worried about throwing a bad pass. I was worried about being a goose, and and most of it's like I knew a lot of my mates would be watching, and I'm just getting chipped, and that was what made me more nervous, And I mean, I was already injured before I went out there. I was playing on one leg.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but again, I got it was a grade 2 calf tear like 4 days before the game, and so I got no chance of playing. I'm just like, no, I'm not going to be that guy because everyone would have just said, oh no, he pussied out.
Mm.
And I mean, that wasn't what was motivating me to play with a bung leg. What motivated me to play with a bung leg was so I could sit in the shed with you and the boys and have a tin and say, I actually trotted out and played a game of rugby with those guys. And it's actually like something that, I'll tell people about forever and a day, and hopefully I'll get invited back.
Yeah, same actually. We were talking about that, eh?
Yeah.
I'd go back in a heartbeat. Yeah. It was such an awesome event, eh? Nah, it's alright.
Oh, sorry, mate. That's my phone. Buddy, that's a box. That's a box.
That's a box. Blood on the canvas.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, blood on the canvas, mate. Yeah.
We'll get into that too a little bit more further down the track with the boxing side of it. But yeah, like that changing room camaraderie that rugby brings. We were just talking about this last week, actually. Like it's so, yeah, I don't know how to explain it. It's like, it's addictive. It's like a drug. Like, I play rugby for the camaraderie. Like, the longer I've gone on through my career, like, I definitely love an opportunity to challenge myself, and that's why I think I like the game of rugby, and I always will, because it doesn't matter what level you play, you can always find a challenge within it, and something that you can't quite get right, or something you want to improve at. And you can never ever master any of it, really, like, because it's just so, it just changes and evolves constantly. Like, you look at the game of rugby now compared to what it was when I started professionally, which isn't that long ago. It's so different. And but that camaraderie factor of just being out there in the heat of the battle with a group of mates, like, they become like family, especially when you spend a few years together as a group or a team. And in the professional game, you live with these guys for you know, like a lot of the guys that, like Richard Cowie and Toby Lynn and Brendan Leonard, we grew up playing from when we were like 11 years old. We played rep rugby together, Ella de Malmonch. We all went through all the grades, then into professional rugby, and played together professionally for 10 plus years. That you get very, very close, and that camaraderie, they are like family. And it's pretty special to be able to go out there and test yourself against the best in the world often, like especially when you're playing at that level, and then you've got your best mates beside you and you're trying to do it. It's it's something pretty special.
I don't think there's a and of course, you know, like I haven't played any serious level at all, but you know, I don't know if there's any other game in the world that exists where there's that same level of, your camaraderie is one thing, but like the mutual respect between two teams. That's and I've noticed that sort of, you know, having kids, you know, and like my parents, you know, particularly my mum, you know, like the miles she did to get us to our games, you know, my brother playing rugby and my sister playing netball as well, get us around to games, and now we do it for our kids. But my daughter played football for a little while, soccer, and you know, she got pretty good. She played reps and that. But at a soccer game, the full-time whistle would go, and 10 minutes after the full-time whistle, there's not even a car in the car park. Everyone just packs up their kids and goes home. And I wasn't so unfamiliar with that, because growing up playing rugby, it was always, you know, the home team, mum brings a plate. And what I really love about it, and it still goes on in Northland, and speaking to some of my mates that live down in Auckland, that doesn't happen anymore. The old home team does a feed. I don't know about Waikato or further afield, but like my mates in Auckland, like, no, it's not like when we were kids, mate. It's sometimes they get caterers, but the mums don't do a feed. And I've always thought it was really nice how after the game, the home team, even from boys as young as 5 years old, and they've seen their mum cook the nice feed, you know, or make some bloody rice bubble cakes or whatever, but they know they don't get to eat them first. That they have to invite the other team up, you know, and show that respect. You know, manakitanga. Other team comes in first, and they're watching these other fellas that they've just done battle with on the field, go
eat
and
all the nice stuff, all the nice stuff,
eat all the good, and then the home team gets to go and eat. And I just think that's a real good thing for our young boys, and girls as well. You know, to be able to give that, and it's all through sport, and it's been about respect, and I think it's you know, that sits real well with Kiwi culture, but it's actually a bit of common ground that we've got with other rugby playing nations as well. While we're culturally massively different, there's the common ground of respect and you know, hard on the field, but trying to be the best host you can off the field.
Which is something that Kiwis do better than most. People from all walks of life tend to mingle pretty well here in New Zealand. And a lot of people don't leave either.
That's right. No, it's a great leveler. Like, funny thing, like, I've been very lucky to travel sort of all around the world, and I'm always interested to know what people, particularly some really smart sort of people that I've met, what they think of New Zealand. So I just ask a very broad question, and I would say probably 80% of people I ask say the people. The first thing they say is the best part about it. You know, like we're really, you know, Tourism New Zealand is good at saying, oh, look at our beautiful ski fields, and we make amazing wines, and we've got amazing fashion designers who make award-winning handbags. Well, guess what? There's plenty of places in the world that make a good wine. We've got some nice mountains.
Yeah.
There's only one place, mate, that's full of Kiwis.
Yeah,
and it's here.
Yeah.
And interestingly, it's people from outside New Zealand. It's the first thing they say. Oh, man, what do you like about New Zealand? And they say, oh, the scenery and that was amazing.
Yeah.
The people, man, I met this person. We stopped here, and the next thing you know, we got invited to their house. And it's like, oh, man, it makes me feel real proud when I hear that. Like, foreigners say that. And I think
it's
New
a
Zealand
very Kiwi thing, that hosting, though, eh?
Yeah.
Like, we went out to your new build that you're building out there, and I listened to the design of the house and how you've got it laid out. It's all about hosting.
Yeah,
that you can
Absolutely.
see that you're really passionate about it.
Yeah.
And I'm exactly the same. And I grew up in a family that was like that. We always, every Saturday, we go back to the rugby, junior rugby. I remember it. If there was like an All Blacks test in the afternoon or a Waikato game or whatever, if we weren't going over there, it was like everyone would come back to our house, and Mum and Dad just loved it. They just always had their friends over, and we were excited because they were obviously, you become friends with your parents' friends' kids, and we just used to have a ball, eh?
Yeah,
and
they're the
just
best
love having
nights,
people around.
Saturday night after rugby, I always remember, mate. I mean, see, I'm showing my age. Been a bit of different inflation since you played, but we got 50 cents pocket money after the game. If we lost, and we got $1 if we won. And if you got $1, which was mostly, I would play for Weymouth. We had a good team.
Good team.
Yeah. So with your $1, I could get a mince and cheese pie, and a couple of K-bars, and maybe a can of Coke or something. Shit, mate. Like that.
That's
dollar,
awesome,
that
mate, for
dollar
$1.
At the
That'd be
tuck shop
$20 now.
Yeah, I know. Which was this little shed that we had next to our club rooms. We'd get that, and we'd just be on a sugar rush. Burning around, just wear our rugby uniform all day. Because when you're junior boys, you don't shower or anything, and we'd be down the beach, we'd be eeling, building huts, and then we'd find out whose parents' place that was going for the after party once the club closed. And they were the best nights because all your parents were pissed. You could do whatever you wanted, mate.
Stay up late,
building tree huts, and we'd scam our parents So I'd go to Mum. Oh, Dad said you've got to give me some money for fish and chips. All us kids are hungry, so get $5 off Mum. And then you go to Dad, do the same scam. And then my mate would go to his mum and dad. Next thing you know, mate, we're $20 down the takeaway bars. We're shouting bubble gum, playing Street Fighter. Ripping up banana fritters. We could do whatever we wanted, man. And that was just part of the whole Saturday tradition. It was. Go and play footy, and then, drink some sugar and scam your drunk parents out of money.
It's such a part of the way I grew up. It's exactly the same. And we really try and emulate that again with our boys. So I don't know. Someone told us, might have been before we had kids, like a friend or something that had children, and they said, look, just make the kids fit into your lifestyle. Don't flip your whole world around for them, because you'll constantly be changing and trying to adapt, because they don't know. They've never lived before, so they're going to be a product of what you provide them. So it's like, oh, sweet. So to the point where we've got, our boys share a bedroom purely for the fact, so when we go somewhere, they can sleep in the same bed or on the couch or whatever. They don't need to have their own space.
I thought that was so you could have the spare room for your fishing gear.
And that.
Mate, I'm with you 100%, mate. I don't want to get into bloody parenting. You're too early on, but I'm 100%. I've always been look, make these little critters come to our around to our way of lifestyle. And the millennials, geez, they just don't. It's like they can't have a puppy without the puppy ruling. I can't come into work today. The puppy's got a, I don't know. You've got to go and see a psychiatrist or some bloody thing like it. And it's just no, I'm not saying treat kids like a dog. Feed them, clothe them, look after them, love them. But they will happily come along and do what you want to do. And you've got to remember, kids are the ultimate negotiator. If they don't get what they want, they can just keep asking or throw a tantrum or do whatever. They're never going to get worse off.
No.
You know, so if they've got good parents that love them, you know, they know that if they're told no, well, it's not going to get any worse than that for them, is it?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, like, so they will try every trick in the book, and you
Yeah.
just got to stick to your guns and nah.
Yeah, don't want to talk about parenting, but they just love what you do.
Yeah.
Like my boys, they don't even really know what like they love fishing, but they just love it because I love it.
Yeah.
Like it's the only reason.
Yep.
And they just want to do what Dad does.
Yep.
And that was the same for me when I grew up. Like Dad loved the outdoors, fishing, hunting, rugby. So that was
Yep.
what I grew up doing, and that's all I wanted to do. It was
Yep.
like because that's what Dad did, and I wanted
Yep.
to go with Dad.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I was the same. And my wife's been really good at reminding me of that. You know, like I'll be, you know, I can be a little bit hard on shore sometimes and say, you know, and she's like, mate, you just, you know, like he's not you.
Yeah.
He's a different creature altogether. And you know, don't be so hard on him. Yeah, maybe at your age you might have been doing this, that, and the other thing, but he's a different person, and it's actually good. Like Kayleen's quite a good leveler for me in that respect, because you know, all I have to do is think back and think, yeah, you know, when I was his age, I just wanted to do what my dad did, you know? And it just happened to be. Fishing was a big part of that.
Yeah.
You know, when Shaw was young, he was no interest in fishing. He would come. And if you were to ask me, he'd say he'd come just to keep me happy. Not because he wanted to. He didn't like it.
Yeah.
Didn't like it at all. Like, just got seasick. You know, if I'd said to him, right, we've got a choice of going out and catching a swordfish today or go mushroom picking, he would have said mushroom picking.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as long as I was spending time with me.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know,
As long as you were
wouldn't
going to
have
do
mattered.
either or.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I
that's
think,
interesting, eh?
Yeah, I think his dads, we've got to remember that. Just, I don't know, think back to how you thought as a kid, and instead of how you think now.
Shaw's definitely changed his tune on fishing now, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Something
I was going to say, all I've talked to him about the last 2 days is fishing.
It's he's definitely more hard out than me now. So I don't know. Something changed about 3 years ago. Just and I don't remember any specific moment, but I guess the seasickness was getting a lot less, and it wasn't such a thing. And I mean, I'd come home from work, and we're working on fishing media the whole time, so I'm looking at it the whole time, and I'd sort of walk in at night at 7 o'clock, and like, he would come out of the door and get me before I've even got out of my truck and be like, oh Dad, it's going southwest tomorrow, there's going to be an outgoing tide, it'll be perfect for a burley trail, you could knock off work early and we'll go and, you know, he's making plans, and I'm just like, whoa, slow down, you know. And I don't want to dampen that enthusiasm, you know, just because I've been, you know, I've had 12 hours of fishing, and all I want to come in and sort of do is, you know, watch the news or whatever. So, you know, I've got to kind of balance that like overfishing fatigue that I can get when it's your job, with not wanting to dampen one little bit his passion for it either. You know, so
that must be a hard balance, right? Because like I'm extremely passionate about fishing, but it's not my job. You know what I mean? And I don't know. But then I kind of think about that, and I think about rugby, and that was my job, but I lived and breathed it.
Exactly.
So it's like, I suppose if it's ingrained in you and it's what you want to do,
that's right.
You're going to want to do it. Like,
you know, I get a day off, I go fishing.
Yeah.
And that's and that's the truth of it. You know, like I had a day off yesterday when we went fishing, didn't we?
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
So it's just different. So, you know, I don't. There's no film crew dragged along, and it hasn't got that same pressure. You know, as the
it'd be completely different, right? Without the film crew. And,
you know, like you know, I always, you know, everyone that I take out fishing, I want them to catch good fish, and that's where some pressure might come in. You know, in years gone by, it would be wanting to keep up appearances, like or keep up. Well, you know, geez, people are going to expect that I'm going to post a picture of a big fish because I went out fishing today. You know, and that. And I got to the point where I'm putting pressure on myself, you know, like, who cares? The only real pressure that I feel now, other than when we're filming, because, you know, it's my job, you know, and sometimes, you know, I've travelled somewhere to the other side of the world to catch a fish, and you've got to do it on the day, so you put a lot of time and money into catching a fish, so you work hard, or vice versa. Someone might have come from the other side of the world, and we've got one day to go and do it, and that applies pressure to yourself. But on a day off, The only real pressure that I sort of feel is to make sure that people catch a good fish. And I've even eased up on myself a wee bit on that. I'm like, nah, it's not even that important they catch a good fish. It's just important they have a good time. You know, so and you get good people on a boat, and I've
Good
always,
things happen.
That's right, mate. Yeah. And I've always said, like, there's 3 elements to fishing. You know, to a good day's fishing. There's the fish, of course, that's important, right? There's the weather, that's real important, and then there's the people. And if you get 2 out of 3, you're normally good. But one of those 3 should be the people every time.
Yeah.
Like, I've had times when I was, you know, we'd have a client on the boat, and we could have a group of 4 guys jump on the boat, and 3 of them are real good bastards, and one's a dickhead. And yeah, you're on a 56-foot boat, but 56 feet isn't big enough to get away from a dickhead when you're up at the Three Kings, and it's hard work, and you're slogging your guts out, and he's pissing and moaning because his mates have caught bigger fish, and you know. And I learned from that you know, I'd come back from trips where we'd caught swords and marlin, we had good weather, but there was a dick on the boat, and you're coming back going, oh, that wasn't such a great trip.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it was good but not great. And then I've had the converse where it's been crap weather, fishing's been slow, and you've had a bunch of good guys on the boat, and you come back and your face is sore from grinning and laughing, you know, like it's, and you think, man, that was wicked, and and I remember the fish that I caught with those good guys in tougher conditions much more than I do the glamour days where you're going through the motions to help someone who you kind of don't really feel deserved it.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that must be hard, right? Like crewing, because the other side of that too is a lot. This is a generalization again, but a lot of wealthy people, or not wealthy people is probably not the right word, but a lot of people that would do that kind of thing would almost be a little bit that way too. Like a little bit like, oh, I'm a bit better than you because I'm paying to be here. Kind of thing, like I imagine it's not always, but
I hear what you're saying. I mean, there's good and bad people in all walks of life,
yep.
and you could tell some people that have never really worked a day in their life. And mind you, I will say that I have had some extremely wealthy people that have never worked a day in their life and been lovely. You know, just been good as gold. But yeah, it is hard because you've got to be professional. It's your job, you know, and it's still your job to. And like, to be honest,
be a lot like hospitality, right?
Yeah,
like
it would be. Yeah. I mean, I don't try any less. Like, you know, like when I was crewing, you know, when I got up in the morning, it was like, or sometimes you didn't even get you had to sleep. You've been up all night catching sores, you know, busting your ass all night.
Yeah, we'll talk about that too. That was a cool story. I enjoyed that one.
Yeah, but every day was you just did your best. And if we lost a fish, you know, I felt like no one felt it more than me on the boat. And so...
You take a lot of self-pride, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, so I used to take it to heart when a client said, oh, you guys aren't even trying, you know. We dropped our last 3 fish and like, you guys, you know, don't even really care. And like, I used to be like, no, man, I care. I want to catch every fish, you know. I'm out here really doing my best. And so, that stung more than anything when you got... a client that was just didn't appreciate the work you were putting in. You know, they're like, I've paid the money, where's my fish? Yeah. And fortunately, I would say...
Most of those people that are like that, not fishermen?
No.
Yeah, they don't get it, eh?
No, there's not.
So they see a video or read a story and they're like, oh man, I'm going to go catch one of these. How do I do it? Oh, there's a charter, I'll pay the money, go. Yeah, but they don't have any relative term to what the sport actually is or how it operates.
No, exactly. And then you could get people that had, you know, saved for like, you know, 4 or 5 years to get on the trip because, you know, we're a top boat and all that sort of stuff, and they'd come out with you. And at the end of the day, you know, and like they've saved their pennies, you know, to come, and they're there scrubbing the deck with you at the end of the night, and, you know, like, I'm like, go sit down, mate. It's my job. Like, leave me alone. They're like, no, mate, you know, you've been busting your ass for us all day. I'm going to help you. You know, I'm going to help you get this job done. You know, that's what we do. And, you know, and a lot of, you know, I've got a lot of guys that I met, like not from just New Zealand but around the world. I stay in touch with to this day. you know, when I was crewing, it was, and not just crewing, fishing in general. One of the greatest things that's come from my job is, you know, the people I've got to meet. I mean, here I am now, sitting across the table from you, mate.
Mm-hmm.
Chiefs Mana, and like, you know, and I get to knock around with all these footy players. Yep. You know, I never made the team, but I get to, you know, get to meet guys like yourself.
Mm. Yeah, it's amazing that, like, I suppose social media helps that, right? Because I guess that's how we kind of first got in touch, eh?
Yep.
Really, like through Instagram and stuff. You've seen that I was into fishing, and I liked probably every single one of your photos you've ever put up. I'd imagine over the years, but and then I suppose in that respect, it's made the world like a little bit smaller and more reachable. Yeah. Like, you know, like because otherwise, if it wasn't around, I would have had to walk past you somewhere and be like, oh, that's Matt Watson, and then have a chat, and then
I guess I've never really thought of it.
And you'd be like, oh, are you into fishing? You're like, yeah, actually, I really enjoy fishing, but you never. I suppose without that, I suppose the social media, like, well, mine's just full of fishing pretty much, and Marie and the kids and a bit of footy. There's probably more fishing than rugby in it, but it makes the world kind of a bit smaller and a bit. You can rub shoulders with like-minded people a bit easier. Yeah,
true. I've honestly not really thought of it like that. I guess I've always just felt that I've always been accessible anyway. Like, I kind of feel like I've spoken to everyone that's ever liked fishing already. And that's what buzzes me out. Like if I go to a boat show or something and there's a whole bunch of people that want to come up and say g'day, and it's like, I thought I must have met everyone by now. You know, like...
Yeah. Well, fishing's the biggest sport in New Zealand, eh?
Yeah.
Like,
participation-wise. I think walking. They've categorised walking as a sport now.
Oh, okay.
So it's number 2 behind walking.
Yeah. Does that mean like walking to the fridge?
Yeah, I don't know, mate. You know, you'll have to, you know, people smarter than me work all that out.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
But no, so it is. It's a big thing, and you know, I know you've been around one of the occasions, but you know, I'll like go out to a bar with a bunch of footy boys or whatever, or at an event, and you know, everyone's coming up and, you know, getting photos with the Bowden Barracks and all that of this world and all that, but then after that they get left alone. And it was actually Andy Ellis said to me once, and he goes, man, he said, do you know why I think that, like, you know, 2 hours later there's people still with you? It's because people can't walk up to us and go, oh, remember that, you know, there was that time I was in the Rugby World Cup final and I did this and that. And they can't do that, but everyone can come up to me and go, oh, I caught that fish, or I fished in the same place, and I went on that boat with you, and I was on holiday at this place and you'd been filming there. So every Kiwi that's, you know, ever cast a line or even is related to someone is sort of, you know, it's easy to relate to me, and I guess it's, you know, I'm not like a towering, hulking All Black or anything, which is pretty, you know, intimidating for somebody to come up to a professional rugby player, and you know, as you'd know, guys have got a few beers in them, they get a bit of courage, they'll come and slap you on the back and you know, and regale a few of their club footy greatest moments. But you know, you know, most people, as you know, have caught a fish in one way or another. And it's just a real easy icebreaker for people to come up. And I guess the only, I won't say negative, because, you know, I like people, but man, it's like some people have got 1,000 fishing photos on their phone and they want to show me every single one of them. You know, and then as they're scrolling through, they're like, oh, look, this is my daughter-in-law's wedding. Oh, look, and this is her second cousin, and she's come over from Australia, and you know, she was, you know, she had a learning disability, but then she got over it, and that was really good. And I'm like, mate, you jumped on here to show me that trout that you caught. And he's just like scrolling through, and so I get to the whole family history, whereas pre-smartphone, it was just like, oh man, like, how's the fishing going? No, like, oh, you know, all right, share a few little quick yarns, and now it's like they've got this little media centre, and people are showing you videos, and, which is cool in one respect, but
very time consuming though, right?
Yeah, time consuming. Yeah, it is.
Right through already, we've talked about people a lot, eh? And, you know, we've talked about New Zealand, what makes New Zealand different, it's the people. And then you saying there that you enjoy people and being around people, it's very hard to like, and I'm exactly the same. And my wife gets annoyed like all the time because I'll get stuck talking to people. Because if somebody wants to come up and talk about rugby or fishing or anything, like anything that I'm kind of into, if they come over and they're taking the time in a way, like courage, like it's always, I think it's quite courageous to talk to anybody that you've never met for the first time. Like we all get that little sense of like a little bit of anxiety. You remember back in the day when you go and try and pick a girl up in the pub, it's very nerve-wracking to go and break the ice. Yeah. Long time ago. Yeah. But like it's very nerve-wracking to make that initial conversation. So you think like these people, and I always relate it back to myself as a kid, like when I saw Waikato, back then Waikato players, man, I was just like, oh my God, I would have given anything to have a conversation with them, but I was too shy, or if I did build up the courage to get an autograph or whatever, I always remembered that fact when I was a player, and I was like, didn't matter how many times that might have been the same person came up, told the same story, I remembered that what I was like when I was a kid, and I got that chance. So I was like, okay, the least I can do is listen and respond and have a conversation, and then that's just about being respectful.
It is, mate. Yeah, good on you. You just gotta and you can pick it up from people, and it's just about making it easy for them, and just remembering that people are it feels weird saying it aloud, but it like it buzzes me out, like when I go to places and like there'll be kids like trembling, like, and I'm just trying to make them feel better. It's like, no, I'm okay, mate. Like, I'm not gonna hurt you, like, unless you're a fish. Unless you're a fish, you're in trouble. But like it's it's not something you sort of really talk about, but it's a hard thing to wrap your head around. That, I mean, it's my job. Like I go out of my way to try and get attention. I mean, that's what my job is. Go and catch fish and be good at it, and that's what keeps me employed. But then when the success of that manifests itself into people like wanting to talk to you and meet you and kids freaking out, that's just a weird thing, because like, I mean, you've been up here. I'm pretty I live in a small community, and the people, guys over at the rugby club, I just go there, wash the dishes, and get sort of bullied around by the woman in the kitchen trying to help out, when there's something on over there, and so it's like life is just real normal up here, and so I can go and our studio's up here, so it's not like I'm bloody down in Auckland rubbing shoulders with famous people and all that sort of stuff all the time, and you just forget, and then like I'll go to the petrol station one day and I'll just be thinking, I'll think, got all these jobs to do, and the missus wants me to grab a bottle of cream because we've got guests over, and there's people looking at me. I'm like, shit, I've got pants on, what's all up? And then I was like, that's right, I'm on TV. Like, that's why they're looking at me, like they're like they kind of know me. And then, oh, is that him? And it honestly, because I'm so insulated from sort of public stuff up here, it is a little bit.
And up here, because it is a small community, you just met.
Hey,
exactly. Like everyone would have known you pre-TV.
Exactly.
Anyway.
But in saying that, it's not bad. Like my mates, like when we go to rugby games or something, and everyone wants to come up and have a yarn, and we're actually at Rugby Park, Hamilton, for a Rugby World Cup game. I think it was 2011, so it was like Japan ABs, I think, and I went to go for a piss just after half time, and I never made it back to my seat, because like the longer the game goes on, see, the more booze guys have, the more courage they get. And I just come out of the urinal, and mate, your guys wanted to pick me up and just yarn away and all that, and like my mates just came over and just said, look, this is the bar, we're going, we'll catch up later, like because and I was talking to my mates the next morning, they're like, man, it must be a hassle getting hassled like that, and I was like, you know what, every single one of those people that came up had something nice to say. They wanted to buy me a beer, it's like, that's not a hassle, and it honestly isn't. And people all the time say to me, my family say to me, gosh, it must be a drag, like if we're out somewhere, it's like, you know what, it's not a drag, and it honestly isn't. I don't know what it's like for you or for other people, but it's not a drag for me, and it honestly isn't. I've got no problem with it whatsoever.
Nah, like, I'm the same, because like I said there before, like I remember back to what I was like when I was on the other side, you know, when I was like a massive fan of rugby or, you know, like fishing, like with you say, like I would put myself back in that position. I was like, oh, what would I have given to have that conversation? Like, so when you're on the other side, it's like, oh, it's, you know, it's easy just to listen and to say thank you and to respond. Yeah, you know, like it's not a hard thing to do, and it's just about being like respectful, but it's also, it's almost, it's part and part, like it comes with it, with the territory, right? Like you put yourself out there into a position like that, then you got to expect that people are going to want to interact and talk to you.
Yeah, I guess it's probably a little bit different for, you know, like I'm not an athlete, you know, so a bit.
You pulled pretty hard on that leader yesterday.
No, that's just mongrel. That's just pure mongrel, mate. That's just
dogged
determination. You know, like. Just,
I was quite impressed. They didn't even flinch though.
Yeah, no. Again, it's one of those things that it's you know. I guess we should talk about fishing. We're talking about everything but, mate. We've covered, we're covered parenting, millennials.
We're just keeping all the listeners on edge.
Yeah, that's
be like,
right.
Are these guys going to talk about
we've got to
fishing?
talk about fishing, yeah. So, fishing's one of those things, and it's like anything, when you're used to it, you learn through osmosis. It's the best kind of learning, because, you know, the saying is if you're best at the things you love the most. And I love fishing, and I'm not saying I'm the best at it or anything like that, but just naturally you get good at it, and that can be, I know you spoke about leading a fish, but it's just I've done it a lot. Yeah. Or it could just be a sign that you notice when you're in the water. Sometimes it's even just a gut feel. There's all sorts of little things, and the best thing about it is if you want to learn them, yes, you know, you can watch videos to learn to tie a knot, but just go fishing. Go fishing and enjoy yourself, and you'll pick things up. And just remember to learn things on the days you're not catching fish as well, because there's lessons everywhere. Yeah. You know, so you know, like, I mean, I don't know. Wiring fish is my favourite part of any kind of game fishing. It always has been. You know, I'm a crewman from way back. You know, I've got skipper's tickets and that, and I can drive boats and I know how to find fish. You know, but I don't enjoy being like on a game fishing. I don't like being upstairs. I want to be down in the cockpit. I want to be with the boys, getting a little bit of the hype going, you know. And I want to be there. And for me, it's just no bigger thrill of, you know, grabbing hold of a leader and having a big fish on the other end of it that's pulling back while it's still fresh. You know, like that's peak of what I do. Like that is the best part. There's the bite. Sorry, no, I mean the bite's good. Like. If you get to see the bite and get that rush that you get when you see a bite of a big fish, or feel the bite of a big fish, if we're talking about stray lining for a snapper or something, you know, there's the bite, yes, and then, you know, and that's very, you know, about what I like, and then the bit in between is about, I just love seeing everyone else's reactions around me, like, and the boys being pumped up, the angler being scared and nervous and excited at the same time. You know, and me knowing what they're going through, because, you know, everyone's got their first one once, and you can, you know, and so, and then, you know, if I'm getting selfish again at the end, it's, you know, give me a good pull on that, you know, give me a good pull on that fish. That's why I love hand lining as well. I did a lot of hand lining as a kid, and it's just that feeling of, oh, can I hold it? You know, it's just the same thing. And for me, that's as good as a feeling gets.
Yeah, there's something special too about being on a big, like, sport fishing boat going backwards though.
I know, the rumble of it. I know. I can imagine the carbon footprint that's just getting. if we can set that aside, there's just some real macho shit going on there. It's just like big engines roaring backwards, the blunt end of a boat. Pushing through some waves, you know, it's coming over the back.
You're getting wet. It's vibrating, it's like, noisy.
Yeah, mate. There's no denying that's some cool shit. That just, you know, being there, and you can see why people are drawn to it.
I remember the first time I went backwards on a launch, and it was with Sean, and I was just like, I remember jumping on the boat, and you know, the engine started and was sort of cruising out, and there's that drone of the engines when you're sort of trolling.
Yeah.
But that disappears, after a
tune it
while.
out,
Your ears sort of tune out from that. And I remember thinking, like, man, it's so loud in here. And then half an hour in, I'm like, oh, it's like, can't actually hear it anymore. It's like zoned out. You can have a normal conversation.
Yeah.
But then he's like, you wait till we go backwards. And I was just like, oh, okay. Like,
Yeah.
thinking, oh, yeah, it's going to be pretty cool seeing videos and stuff, you know, like waves coming over the back or whatnot. But man, when there's engines kicking, the turbos kicking, and water's coming over the back and the floor's shaking.
I know.
Oh.
Yeah. I tell you what, I probably should go and, I mean, we've been talking pretty sort of generically about fishing and stuff in general. I'll give you an actual anecdote about going backwards. Just reminded me of it. So I was working on the Primetime, and it was ladies' weekend, the Whanganella comp.
Yep.
And I don't think we'd done a ladies' comp before, and so my boss says, "Oh, you know, I'll bring my wife and get your missus along as well." And I'd mate Kieran. He said, "I'll get him." So we got a team of 3 girls, and the weather was just absolutely atrocious. And I mean, you've met Kayleen. She would have told you. No interest in fishing, like zero. My wife's got zero. She is the least interested person in fishing that I know, and that's true. You know, like, I can be gone overseas for 2 weeks. You know, I remember coming back from Nova Scotia, and I get back. I've been gone for like 14 days, and you know, caught like grander tunas, and just done. I got an 800-pounder on a hand line. Just had the most epic trip of all time. And she doesn't say, "Did you catch anything? What did you catch? How was the fishing?" Never. Doesn't ask. It was like, "What was the food like? Did you watch any good movies on the plane? And what did you buy me?" It's like, and then it was like 4 weeks after that. Oh no, longer. It would be much longer than that. I was getting ready to go away on another trip. And I'm in the shed rigging up all my gear and weighing stuff with scales because you know, like all the gear
everything
that we got to pack, you know, and with our camera gear to fly overseas, I'm weighing bags. And I just noticed her going through the living room, and she stopped in front of the telly and she was watching it. And I was like, oh, she's watching something on telly. And then she calls me up and she's like, come here, look at this. And I go in there and she goes, look at this guy. He's like in the water with these fish, and he's like hand feeding them like these massive giant fish. Like, oh, what sort of fish? She's like, they're giant ones. And I go over there, and it's me. But because I'm underwater and I'm wearing my freediving gear, she didn't even recognise me. I was like, that's me. And she was like, oh. But she thought it was really cool, and she was like, so what sort of fish are they? I'm like, oh, they're tuna. And she was like, oh, when did you do that? Is that out here? I was like, no, that was in Canada. She's like, when did you go to Canada? I was like, 6 months ago. She goes, oh, okay. You didn't tell me you caught any big fish. I was like, you didn't ask. You didn't ask, yeah. So anyway, sorry, I digress. So Kayleen, we managed to convince her to come out on the boat because we needed 3 ladies and we just wanted to fish the comp. And the weather was terrible. Kayleen gets horrendous seasickness, but all of the three were terribly seasick. Anyway, we were out at the garden patch, 5:05, and boom, we got a triple on. And there's the 3 ladies, and it was rough. And we were running down sea when we got bit, so that was all right. And there was a few boats there because there'd been a bit of a bite on, and we had 2 of them, and we were all chair rods, so big long bent butt rods. And Nikki, that was Kieran's wife, she jumped into the chair, and then we got the other 2 ladies on chair rods but on stand up, and it was rough. And and Kayleen's looking at me, she's pale, she's been spewing her ring out since we left the harbour. And you know, just like, I don't want to be here, you know, winding on this fish, and I'm trying to go, look at us jumping, and she just put her head down. I just want to spread the line, and like her fish was pulled hot. Okay, came off, and she was just like so relieved, you know. So wound the lure in, and she just went upstairs, and she was soaking wet, right? Because even we weren't even really backing up; we were more or less holding station, but the waves were so big, smashing into the back of the boat. And Nikki's fish had gone down. We thought, oh, maybe it was tail wrapped and it's dead. So she's just sort of dead, trying to winch hers up. And Sam, hers was the biggest of the fish, and she was on 50 pound, and she had about 700 meters of line out. And anyway, we're trying to get Nikki's fish up because it was closer first before we started backing up on Sam's fish on the 50 pound. and it comes up backwards, and it was sort of semi-alive, semi-dead, and we always, you know, if they're going to live, we always like to tag them, right? And it's always been the way. And I knew that if we towed this fish for a while, it would swim away. It hadn't been wrapped up for that long. But next to us, we've got Sam, and she's got 800 metres out. And we're in a tournament, you know, and John said, is it going to go 90? And I was like, oh, it's close, man, it's close. He goes, just pull it through the door. We've got to start backing up. You know, we're going to get spilled. If not, we're going to... So I pulled this fish through the door, just grabbed it by the bill, wasn't that big, opened the door. Yeah. Pulled it through the door, and being so rough, we've got a whole bunch of water coming in the boat as well. And the Primetime's got pneumatic seals. So one of the big dangers is when you're taking a lot of water into the cockpit is it gets below decks and the bilge pumps can't keep up.
Oh, yeah.
So on the Primetime, and it was John's design, so we had like an air compressor in one of the lockers, so all of the doors and everything that went under deck, we had a switch. When we hooked up, we flicked that switch on, and it sealed everything, so no water could get below deck. So you could fill the cockpit up with water, and you wouldn't get any drops. So all your lazarette, all your gear down there would all stay dry.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I've been on boats, and when it's got the boat starts wallowing, you know, and and the pumps can't keep up. Yeah. But so we had the switches on, so we weren't worried about a bit of surface water on the deck. And the Primetime's got such a huge cockpit, it would literally hold tons of water inside the cockpit. And so we just pulled the stripey on board. We'll deal with it later. And I was like, I hope it goes 90, you know. Yeah. Anyway, there's this boat coming across the back of us, and John's radioing up, going, "Give us room. We've got a lot of line out. You're going to run over our fish. You're going to run over our fish." And Sam's fish is jumping. And this boat, wherever Sam's fish went, the boat went. And the dude on the boat, an idiot obviously, thought that it was a feeding fish and he was trying to catch it. Oh. So he was chasing it. And one of the other charter boats, Brooke, he's on the radio just abusing this guy. "Get out of their way, you dickhead," you know, like really just reaming him out. And all I could say to John was, maybe he doesn't know we're hooked up. And John goes, "Right, I'll let him know we're hooked up. Hold on. Yeah. I'm going to give it shit in reverse." Yeah. And so we just started pumping back like full ass into a real big sea.
Does it go good backwards, that boat?
Mate, that boat goes mean backwards, yeah. I've been in better. Yeah. I have been in better boats that go backwards, but it goes, you know, as an all-round sea boat and everything, that boat was amazing. Yeah. Yeah, it was an amazing boat. Yeah, like real, it was tender when it needed to be in a big sea, but you know, it could handle the shit. And we were backing straight back into it, and we were just taking some big waves over. And I was sort of like a flanker on a scrum. I had my hand on the latch of the door, and my shoulder was in Sam's ass, like holding her up because she was getting knocked over by the waves coming over. So I was like,
she was on stand up.
Yeah, she was on stand up still, and I'm like bound on her, to hold her up against the waves. Yeah. And we're backing up. Everyone else has vacated the cockpit. It's just me and Sam in the cockpit. And then I feel, and like everything's floating in the cockpit. We've got gimbal belts and shoes and all sorts of shit just floating around inside the boat. And then I feel this bloody banging on the back of my leg. And I thought Keza had come down and he was tapping my leg to get me to move out the way. Yeah. I turn around, mate, and there's a stripey lit up. It had come to life in the cockpit. Oh! It was upright. It was swimming around in the cockpit, and I was getting bill rash on the back of my leg. Yeah. From we've got a stripey swimming in the cockpit. That's how big the cockpit of the Ultimate Lady and of the Primetime was. Yeah. And this fish is slushing around, but it's upright. It's alive. It's got its pec fins out. It's got its dorsal up. Yeah. And it's swimming around inside the boat. It was bottoming out and freaking out. Yeah. But man, it was like, and I just remember thinking, what the hell is going on here? We got a live Marlin in the boat, and I'm like trying to kick it off and trying to hold Sam up at the same time. Anyway, like seconds later, this idiot straight across cut our line off. Yeah, cut our fish off. So we lost the fish, and it actually cost us the tournament. Had we got a tag into that fish, the girls would have all got a trip to Fiji. Oh, yeah. And then the dude got on the radio afterwards, and he actually said, "Oh, we didn't know that it was hooked up. We thought it was feeding. We're trying to catch it. Sorry about that." And John's like, "Oh, you know, we lost it." And he goes, "Oh, okay, man, I'll buy you another lure." And John was like, "Nah, mate, don't worry about buying us another lure. You know, like he just cut the fish. It would have been Sam's first Marlin too." Yeah. But yeah, the hard case thing was, mate, it was like being in a paddling pool with a striker. And it went 91, fortunately. So it did. Yeah. So you didn't end up tagging it after it
was swimming around in the cockpit.
I didn't think of that. I didn't think that.
Opened the door,
we
put a
probably
tag
could
in
have
it.
tagged it and
Sent it out the
sent
door
it out the
again.
door. Yeah, we had a few occasions on the boat, you know, where we filled the cockpit up and it's like, man, there's a lot of water in the boat.
Yeah.
We had to like go forward and open the door.
Yeah,
and then
get it out.
gimbal belts and shoes, and then just get it sucked out the door. You
Yeah.
know, like it is. You know, it is sort of wild, cool shit. You know.
Yeah.
You know, and for a young man like that I was there crewing on those boats, it was pretty heady sort of stuff. You know, like you know, be going up 3 Kings and further. You know, battling swordfish all night and catching stripies and blue marlin and all this sort of stuff all day long was pretty darn cool.
Yeah. There's one thing I did want to talk about. We spoke about it on the boat yesterday. Was it the first nationals you did on Primetime?
Yeah, it was the first nationals. First time I'd ever fished the nationals. Actually, yeah.
Can you fill us in
Oh
on that?
yeah, we got it was a last minute thing to fish it, and we ended up getting away late. I mean, it was our first season, so we didn't have a lot of charters.
Yep.
You know, so and all the well-established boats, you know, the top boats, they all had their regular crews for the nationals, and we were a day or a day and a half late from even leaving, so the nets were going. So by the time we got up to the Kings, the King Bank was fishing pretty good, and I think John Batterton was still on the Harlequin then, Bruce Smith was on the Striker, and they would fish 50 pound and 30 pound because you had more points, basically, for tag fish on the lighter line. And we thought we'd fish 30 pound because we had ground to make up. You know, I think they might have had 8 or 10 fish before we'd even got up there. And yeah, we were getting fish. I think we got 1 or 2 on the first day, and second day we got 3 or 4. And on 30 pound, you know, you get a double on, and because there's a few fish there, and you'd back up on one, and meanwhile the guy up in the bow's getting spilled, and you're going back and forth, and the fish were buggered, and it would take forever. And so John sort of said after a few days, and we weren't really closing the gap on these other guys. They were still a good 10 fish ahead of us, and John made the call, said, we'll just go to Middlesex. And like Middlesex is a long way from the King Bank, so you're pretty much giving up a day, a best part of a day fishing. Oh yeah. To go over there. It's not like you just pop down over and see what it's like. And we went over to the Middlesex Bank, leaving a really decent bite, and we got over there, and the water was just mint, and it's not often that mint on the Middlesex, eh? It's normally it seems to be a bad area for green water, you know. But it was like blue, and there were schools of blue kohiru, like big blues, big adult blue kohiru, like bubbling on the surface like schools of kahawai. Thousands of them. Never seen anything like it. It was like, man, there's got to be marlin here. It's good water. And so we live. Bruce followed us over. You see, it's almost like a yacht race. You know, like if you know the yacht that's in front, you know, well in front. If
they keep cutting wind.
Yeah, I mean, we were miles behind, so we were to use the yachting analogy. We were looking for a wind shift. We were trying to break away and get onto a patch of fish all to ourselves. Yeah. So we could, you know, even more than what there was at the King Bank. Yeah. And Bruce probably quite smartly followed us. Yeah. He thought if any boat's going to catch us, it might be these guys. So he followed us over the Middlesex, and Bruce is a very amazing fisherman, and so he went straight over there, and they were just firing little jigs straight into the kohiru and just poling them in. So they got fresh baits, and they were live baiting the edge of the shoals. We were pulling spread of 4 lures, you know, around the outsides. Nothing, didn't raise anything. We're thinking, man, there's got to be fish here, you know. I think 5-6 hours we fished, didn't get a fish, didn't raise anything. So we thought, well, seeing we've come this far.
Did they get anything on their live baits?
No, one Marco, I think.
One
Marco. They didn't get a single bite on a live bait. And another boat, one of Bruce's mates, Centerfold, they came across as well. And I think they started lures, then they went to baits. They were the same. No one got a bite.
Yep.
3 boats fishing for 5 hours on the legendary Middlesex Bank, loaded with mint water and bait fish in February, you know, like...
Yeah, ready, game on.
What's going on? Like, no one gets a bite. And so we thought, well, we've come this far, we'll just give up on the stripies, we'll go out to the 36 ground. We were pretty good on swords, and we'll just target swords for the rest of the nationals.
Yeah.
And I was pulled some squids out of the freezer and started getting ready to rig baits for the night shift. And we were heading off the bank. Bruce and the centrefold, they'd turned tail and they were heading towards the back to the King Bank. They were probably going to run through the night so they could be there the next day. And I looked back at where this bait fish had been on the surface for the last 5 or 6 hours, and it had all gone. There was no bait left on the surface. I said, John, the bait's gone down. So he spun the boat around and we went back over it with the same 4 lures we'd been towing, and we got a quad. Yeah, we got a quadruple, and we got all of them too.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for us, Bruce was close enough just to see a couple of the fish jumping.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so he came back. And so anyway, I don't think we got that bite till, we didn't get that quad till 20 to 7 at night. It was like 6:40, and we ended up with 7 for the day, or 8 or more maybe. Anyway, whatever it was, we didn't get our first bite till 6:40, and it was the best day we'd ever had on the Primetime.
Yeah.
Like we just fish as soon as we could get gear back into the water.
Bang, another
And
one.
that's because those bait fish, while they're on the surface, and
Yeah.
this is a big lesson for anyone that's interested in game fishing. You find bait fish with good water.
There has to be marlin there.
Yeah, well, it doesn't have to be, but
Yeah.
there should be.
Yeah.
There should be, and to stick it out. And particularly when you see them bubbling away on the surface like that. I've spent a lot of time in the water filming. I'd jump into those bait balls all the time, and there can just be marlin cruising through them, and you can have marlin pretty much almost brushing up against, like I've seen them up against Peruvian mackerel or skippies. Skippies are not even barely moving out of their way. They don't care because they can tell that marlin's not hungry. It's the body language, It's you see it, chuck on Blue Planet or National Geographic or something, and watch sharks swimming amongst shoals of fish. Those shoals of fish don't care because they can tell by the body language. So just because those fish aren't bloody panicking doesn't mean that there's not marlin there. Just because they're not getting ripped or smashed up. And too many guys will come up to a shoal of bait fish, do 2 laps around it with their lures and go, "No, there's nothing here," and they're gone. There'll be fish there. You just wait, and it's when those fish aren't feeding on the surface anymore, that's when you'll get your bite. Because a bait fish doesn't want to be on the surface when it's getting predated upon.
Yeah.
Because it's just taken out 180 degrees of its...
where it can escape.
Of its escape. So they go down, like they try and get down, and the predators are trying to force them to the surface. But if you can see, like, be them kahawai or skippies actively sifting on the surface, just, mate, they're happy days, mate. They're not getting eaten, but that's not to say that there's not a marlin literally 3 or 4 meters underneath them, just shadowing them, waiting for when it's hungry.
Yeah.
All animals, man. Whether it's you see the lion just strolling past the herd of zebras, and the zebras kind of look over and go, "Nah, that guy doesn't want to eat us at the moment. We're all good."
Yeah.
Same thing, man, and that was evidence of it. That was the most, graphic example of it that I've ever come across. Is like the moment that those fish went down, we spun the boat, and we'd been fishing there for hours.
Yeah.
And we got a quad, and we ended up with 7 or 8 that night, and then the next day we got heaps.
Yeah.
Heaps, and we won the nationals. So we were lucky. We did the big come from behind, and unfortunately for Bruce, he didn't have a great last day, and
you guys did.
We were able to catch him up. And I think the difference was we just had Bob Marley greatest hits on repeat. And I've always said it's the greatest fish raising music reggae. And that's proof.
It's proof.
That's
it's
proof.
Proven. Well, it's proven.
It's proven, mate. Every time we played Bob Marley in the Nationals.
We got bit.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, Bob Marley yesterday.
Yeah.
It even raises the swords from 600 metres down, mate.
Yeah.
That's how good it is.
Yeah.
We had a few other magic tricks going on yesterday. We had the swordfish mojo.
We did.
We were running the swordfish mojo magic. I think they hear the crack.
Mind you, we didn't crack, remember?
No, that's right.
Yeah. You were like, no, we're going to do it with skill. We're not going to use magic powers.
I'm not going to use my swordfish mojo superpowers to catch a swordfish. I'm going to see if I can actually catch one without the magic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. We got it before we cracked a can. Wow. Yeah. That's
pretty special.
Special, mate.
And they caught it in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Wasn't a bad one either.
Nah, 160 kilos. It was good, just exciting, those moments that's coming up. And
it was pretty cool. It was pretty wicked. It was a beautiful fish.
Oh, mate.
Man, it looked nice.
Colour up, beautiful fish, and it's just those moments. I think I said at the time, this is the most fun you'll ever have with your pants on, boys.
Yeah.
This is like... So
or if you're like Steph on his boat, they do it with their pants off.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. There's been a couple of naked swordfish captures recently up here. So, but anyway, let's not delve too much into that, eh?
No. So like that, going on, carrying on with like Primetime. So how long were you on there for?
I was started in 2000.
That was when the boat was first built, right?
When the boat was first launched, and I was just lucky to get the opportunity. I didn't know of the Primetime, of course, because it wasn't a charter boat.
Yep.
And I'd actually been offered a job on the Harlequin by John Batterton, who was like, read about him all the fishing magazines.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
one of the legends. I couldn't believe it. So I'd actually promised to go and play for a rugby team over in the UK.
Oh, yeah.
So like not at any great level. It was just a guy that come down and played for our club, and I said I'd reciprocate. And so I got offered the job on the Harlequin, and then literally left 2 days later to go over and do my OE and play a bit of rugby over there, see a bit of Europe, and come back for the next game fishing season. Mm-hmm. So everything was going swimmingly until I got to the Beer Fest in Germany, and I did my ACL at the Beer Fest.
Oh, at the Beer Fest.
Yeah. I'd never done like a major, I'd broken lots of bones.
Yeah.
But I'd never had like a ligament or a serious muscle tear.
Yeah.
And come off of a table dancing injury.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of table wrestling. There was this Aussie joker, and I was apparently like it was the Essendon Eagles or whoever they were, Essendon anyway. They just won the grand final Aussie rules.
Oh, okay.
And they were in the area they call the pig pen.
Yeah.
And I didn't know who the hell they were. I didn't follow Aussie rules. Just a bunch of big Aussie jokers. So I was ended up on the sauce with them. And anyway, ended up on a table in a bit of a wrestling match, and I come off the table and someone stood on my foot, sort of accidentally, but foot stayed on the table and I came off. So the old knee was the weak point.
Yep.
And they don't bend sideways too good, the old knees. So I did an ACL, and there was a plus side to that. Is I went and I got some crutches from the hospital, and in Germany they wanted to operate once they knew I had medical insurance. They were in there. They were they could make it. But the insurance company wanted to fly me home for my surgery. So I spoke to the insurance company's doctor. He said, "Oh look, so long as you're home within the next few weeks, there's no real rush for the surgery." So I did a runner from the hospital with the crutches.
Oh, in Germany?
In Germany, yeah. I tell you what, man, and this tells you how efficient the Germans are. They've tracked me down to this house here. Like, this is like 20... I still get an invoice for those crutches.
Yeah?
Like, man, far out. They're determined. I still got them here. I still got them here, the crutches. Yeah? Yeah, but because I was backpacking, around Europe, I didn't have to line up anymore. People would carry my backpack.
Yeah.
It was mean being on crutches, I'm digressing a bit, but there's a nice little side story to that. We ended up in Rome, and it was 2000, and which was a Jubilee year, which is like a special year, and there's part of the at Vatican City where they've got these big bronze doors, and they only open them once every 25 years.
Yeah.
On these Jubilee years, and you've got to have an invite from the Pope to be allowed in. And it said if you walk through these doors, all your sins are forgiven. So and they were telling us this yarn as on the bus that we were on as we were going. And we're like, oh wow, that's wicked. Let's go check it out. And there was this, I think his name was Brad, Aussie guy, chef, pisshead. Anyway, we got on like a house on fire, so we go, let's go down to the Vatican and check it all out. And we just thought we'd go in there, and the Pope was doing this special service, so John Paul, I think it was him. Anyway, we get there. Turns out you've got to have a ticket to get in the main walls of the Vatican City.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so all of the best Catholic parishioners in the world have been given these, and they were like yellow tickets, like the golden ticket, mate.
Yeah.
And so we're just saying, it's pretty cool to be on the outside and suss it all out. And there's just like clergymen everywhere wearing all of their, traditional Pope gear and all that sort of stuff. And there's all the big hats with everywhere. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. And I was wobbling around on my crutches with my, piss drinking injury, ACL. And this American priest came up and just put his hand on my shoulder. I said, bless you, brother. And where's your pilgrimage brought you from? And I took one look at him, and he thought I was a cripple.
Oh,
And it was just that I was extremely hungover. I would have looked like shit.
Yeah.
I'm on crutches, wobbling around.
Yeah.
And he thinks I'm a cripple. So I was like, oh, my pilgrimage has brought me all the way from the other side of the world, from New Zealand. He goes, oh, and you'll be seeing, you know, the heavenly, the whatever his name is, whatever they called the Pope, you know, and you'll have your invite, have you? I was like, no. I said, alas, I've just come here on my pilgrimage in the hope. He's like, oh, just wait here. And he gets into a little scrum with these other priests.
Yeah.
And he comes out and he says, oh, one of our brothers, you know, one of the priests couldn't make it. So here you go, you know, it's meant to be, your pilgrimage isn't in vain. You're going to get to see the Pope today.
Yeah.
And so I took it to, and I said, oh, what about my caregiver? It was
Brad,
old mate,
yeah.
and they scrolled out and they had a little conference, and they went and spoke to some other guys, and
Yeah.
I think they might have even spoken to some Italian priests, but I got him a ticket as well.
Yeah.
So all because I fell off a table pissed, we got to go in and meet the Pope.
Yeah.
And we got to walk through these bronze doors, you know, and our sins got erased. And shit, mate, I could have done with that. I tell you, like, I kind of blew it like within the next few days.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, sorry. Anyway, I digress. But in a roundabout way, so this is getting to how I got the job on the Primetime. Got back as soon as I got back and my surgery was booked in. I rang John Batterton and said, "Oh look, I'm having surgery tomorrow, but they've told me I'm going to be all good for game fishing season." And he said, "Oh look, it's a good thing you rang because my old second skipper, he's come back from Aussie, and there's no vacancy for you anymore." And I was kind of like, "Well, hang on, you gave me the job, you know." And because I had my skipper's ticket at the time. And he's like, nah, sorry, mate. You know.
Oh.
And so by now it's like, I think it was sort of November, maybe even December. I think all the boats are going to have their crews sorted. And I rang around and sure enough, you know, like back in those days, it was a real thing, you know, like it was a real career path. You could get on a game fishing boat. And it was almost like, man, I've bloody lost that opportunity. And then out of the blue, my phone just rang. There was a guy called John Gregory, and he said, "Oh, I heard you got your skipper's ticket and you want a job." I was like, "Oh, yep." He said, "I'll come up to Whanganella." He said, "I won't pay you, but I'll launch my boat. I just want to see how you go on my boat." And I thought, didn't know what to expect. Went up to Whanganella and saw the Primetime. I'm like, yo,
Yeah.
this
Game
boat
on.
is awesome. But John was new to the game, and so was I. So we were both. I think I'd caught a bunch of marlin from my tinny and a couple of game fishing boats at that stage, but I was still new to the whole game fishing thing. And I think John caught one maybe. He was new. Like he was commercial fisherman. Like we're both commercial fishing backgrounds.
Yeah.
But by the end of the season we were top boat.
Yeah.
You know, and that's largely because John was just so determined. Most single-minded man I've ever met. Like
True.
Focused. You know, focused. Get better. Just so determined. And you know, I think I saw John Batterton a short while after that, and I said, "Mate, thanks for not giving me the job." You know? And he turned around and said, "Well, that actually worked out pretty shit for me because he ended up fighting with his old crewman the whole season, and they didn't have such a great year. Not that I'd wish that on them, but it just worked out real good for me.
Yeah.
You know, that I ended up on this boat called the Primetime, and it went so good, and then that's just where adventures just started, man. Like swordfish was our main thing, and I couldn't wait for the day to end so we could, you know, for the night to begin so we could catch swordfish.
You would have seen some things at night, right?
Oh man, yeah. And everything's just more mysterious at night. You
Yeah,
know?
it's
like
scary.
your imagination runs wild.
Yeah.
You know, you're 100 miles out and you're lowering a big skippy down going, what's going to eat it? What's going to eat it? And you feel something and, you know,
Yeah.
it's just, everything is just like tenfold. Your senses are more tweaked and, you know, the rod lows up and you're just thinking, what the hell? I mean, it was real, you know, pioneering stuff. You know, a lot of those swords had never been touched. I mean, we used to call it the Flemish cap, you know, after the old Perfect Storm movie.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
So we used to call it going up to the Flemish cap.
Yeah.
You know, like when we went up to the 36th ground. Mate, yeah, it was incredible.
Yeah.
Like, massive Marcos fighting swords smashing over Marcos, you know, and then I just, you know, like turning your deck lights on at night, squid fishing, and there's swordfish chasing squid around the boat, and you know, you're hand feeding, and marlin as well.
Yeah.
Hand fed some stripies, you know,
Like
baits.
at night.
Oh, at night.
Yeah?
Yeah, we had one night, and I think we'd been out there for a couple of nights. We caught some swords, and everyone was inside getting dinner, and I was just sort of, I don't know if we had a bait out yet or not, but I just rigged up a live squid. I was squid fishing, so we used to use live squids, but I just rigged one up, and I saw this, like, I thought, oh shit, it's a sword, and we'd seen it before coming. I was like, no, it's not, it's a stripey coming to the boat. So I already had a live squid in my hand. I was about to, like, I was like, wow, bugger it, I'll just throw it straight in front of it. Like, I dropped it straight in front of it, just hoovered it up, and I shouted out, okay, we got one on. Who wants to come in? Who wants to come wind it in? Yeah. But the old Marlin didn't know it was hooked. And so just carried on swimming around in the lights. Yeah. And so anyway, angler comes out from one of the clients comes out from eating his dinner, and he sort of winds the swivel, and the swivel comes to the rod tip, and we still haven't come tight on it. He's like, no, they're just swimming around the boat. Yeah. And he's like, there's no fish on it. He's like, yeah, there is, man. I'm looking at it. Yeah. So I grabbed the leader and I gave it a pull. Yeah. Right. And so I set the hook. Yeah. Well, when I set the hook, old mate Marlin jumped, and so we've got our outrigger out. Yeah. And so our starboard outrigger was out, and you've got your stay. That holds out, so it forms a triangle. Yep. Well, the Marlin jumped between the outrigger and the stay. Oh. Like he jumped right through it, and he got jammed in there. Okay. So the Marlin's bill is just smashing the galley window, like smash against the galley window. And half the tail's in the water and half's out. Yeah. And if you can imagine like a skippy tail just going hard out. So like this fish is not fought. Yeah. And it was like being squirted with a fire hose. Yeah. Like there was so much water coming into the, you couldn't see. It was just like it was just like a jet of water coming off this Marlin's tail. And the boss is inside in his dinner screaming, what are you doing? What are you doing? It's like we were dead boat, mate. We haven't even started the engines, mate. And I've got a Marlin jammed between the rigger and the rigger stay, just like filling the boat full of water, just like crazy. And anyway, so I'm trying to pull it backwards down, but it was stuck in there pretty good. I managed to pull it down, and fortunately it didn't break the galley window, but it scratched up the like. Most boats don't get bull rash up above the like the boat's name was actually up above the galley window, and it was all scratched up, way up there. It was like 2 meters out of the water, and I was like, holy heck, I won't do that again. Set the hook on the leader. And we had a few of those. We had another one on the King Bank where we had some Aussie guys on board, and they weren't Aussie guys. They were farmers from Napier, deer farmers from Napier. And they used to charter Bill Hall, and they had some good yarns from when they went out with Bill. But when Bill wasn't chartering anymore, they come with us. And every year they said, we take a Marlin back home to Napier every year. That was their thing. Like, okay, if you guys want to take one, good as gold, we'll try and make it a pinfish, because there's some good ones around at the moment. So I think the pinfish at the time was like 140, and we thought, if we get something over 140, in the last couple of days, we'll take it home. 4th or 5th day of the trip, I think we got them a sword. Oh no, we didn't get those guys one. But the water was green on the Middlesex, and we got a blue marlin out of nowhere in green water in like May on the Middlesex, and it was a good one. So, and from one of them had a camera bolted to the rail at the top and rolled it, and we knew the fight was 6 minutes because he rolled it when we got the bite. And we had it on deck in 6 minutes. We had a thing, I don't know why, but we're always, in those days, big blues, there's that many stories around about guys getting spooled that you just want to get close real quick. And I guess the lesson we had is that we'd only ever had one die on us, and we had a lot of line out. It was a junior angler, and his dad wanted him to get a record, and we had too much line out when it died. But if you're close to a fish when it dies, it's pretty easy to get it up, if it does die. And my theory to this day is still the same. Get as close to the fish as fast as you can. And I know for a lot of guys that don't do a lot of fishing, and you got a big blue marlin going batshit, you're like, no, let's just stay out there and I'll wait till you're tired. Trouble is, if you wait till it tires, it could go down or even worse, die. And you're going to have a nightmare. So, like on that fish, and like John did a lot of the times, as soon as we got bit, we knew it was a blue, just reversed straight down the middle of the spread. Oh yeah. Yes, straight backwards. That one was on our long rigger, so and I just remember I didn't even turn around to look. I just heard by John wasn't a screamer, he wasn't a shouter, but he shouted. Like, yo, and I think he said, blue or something. Yeah. I just went to the drawer to start putting my gloves on. Yeah. I didn't even turn around to look. Yeah. I just knew we were going backwards, and then we were pulling the lures in, sort of leaning out the side. They were coming from
Yeah,
the
coming
bow,
from
and they
the
were
front.
smoking. You know,
Yeah,
like they'd bubble
They're
trail.
popping, like
Yeah,
you
they were
get a
popping
bite.
out off the bow.
Yeah.
You know. And we backed up, so we just got it real quick. I got an early shot at the leader. I dumped it once, and it did like two big jumps, and then after it landed its jumps, it just sort of trucked on the surface. So we got a second shot, and Jono just slapped the gaff in it. These guys wanted to take it, so, and it wasn't a great gaff shot. It was a pretty poor one, to be fair.
Yeah.
And the hook pulled, so I went into the lazaret and got the second gaff, and my second gaff shot wasn't much better than the first one.
Oh, yeah.
But we got it, you know,
Yeah.
like we got it. So like, I think it was I think it was 6.5 minutes to get the first gaff in, and then like we had it on board with an 8 sort of
Yeah.
thing, you know, like. And so we had this big blue marlin, and guy Wally was the angler, you know, bloody deer farmer, hard case, stocky, for your build, you know, you know, like, you know, strong bugger. Anyway, they got all their photos with it. We had this big kill bag, and we carried heaps of salt ice, so we had it all iced down. And the next day of the trip was like the last day of the trip, so we thought, oh man, you know, they caught their marlin, they want to take one home every year. But we got up in the morning, and they're like, oh, we'll get us our stripey to take home today. I'm like, what do you mean, man? You got a massive blue marlin here. And they're like, no, we set a stripey. We still want to kill a stripey. I'm like, okay, righto then. You know, and to me, I've always been on that sort of conservative side.
Yep.
And I didn't want to be in the boat that brought in 2 marlin sort of thing. Oh, well, you know, you guys are the clients. And we got a double before we even got onto the King Bank. And one of them would have been pretty close to that 140 pinfish. And I just knew it was going to be a good day's fishing, and I didn't want to have to work around another marlin all day. So I said, oh nah, it's about 125, you know, like they're like, no, it's bigger than that. We've caught him. No, it's not, mate. I'm like, let's pin it, let it go. So we let them both go, and then we got another one shortly after, and that was 110 or something, and then we got a real nice one. It was. I'm pretty sure it was over 140, but it was only like 10:30 in the morning. We've got our 4th fish. I'm like, this will be an 8 or 10 fish day, and I don't want to be pissing around. Let's just tag it, and we'll keep one at the end of the day. So we let that one go, and then the fishing just went dead. Like, it went dead, and like the bait, we went marking the bait. The current slowed right down, and these guys started sulking. Oh, Matt, you let go our stripey. We told you we wanted to take one, and now we're not going. So to make them happy, John said, "Oh, what do we get some kingies for you to take home? We catch a few kingies." Well, the kingy fishing was dead too, mate. I think we got one. It was, and this is the 3 kings, right? And like, and I think we got about a 112 kilo kingy or something. And so these guys were still sulking. So I'll get you some puka, and we did a couple of puka drops, and all we got was some bloody. I think we got a shark and it was everything just went dead. Anyway, so John gets on the radio, and Rick Pollock says, "Oh, we're into some nice pukas over here." He said, if you guys need to get some pukas, just pull up alongside us. So whenever we puka fished up there, we'd always have like a blue cowie out, like a live bait under a balloon. And our live bait was pretty shot. So I rigged up a fresh one just as we pulled up alongside the pursuit. And Rick had his clientele on, and they would drift with liveys out. Like they would fish like pukas, kingies, and marlin all at the same time. Real good. And the boat was so beautifully set up, and they would drift side on, and they'd be bottom bashing and marlin fishing, and all the time we'd see them fishing alongside us. They'd get triples of marlin with their balloons out, and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, this time they were just on the pukas because they were on a good patch, and like happened in those days, the charter guys would share information, and Rick knew that we were pretty desperate because we had some unhappy clients to catch, so he called us alongside. As we pull up alongside, he's got like 5 guys all hooked up on pukas, pulling them up. And I had our puka gear already, and I just rigged a fresh cowie, and in between us and the pursuit, and when I say between us, we were literally 30 metres apart, the 2 boats side by side, and the 2 skippers are up on the flybridges talking out the window to each other. And so I just see a marlin tailing right between us, between the 2 boats, and I had a friggin' rigged cowie in my hand. I was about to put in the tube to get ready, so I just pitched it, like I threw it. And it just slapped on the water in front of this bloody tailor. And it just lifted its bill out of the water and just ate it. And I was like, John. And he's like, hang on a sec. I was like, no, John, we got him. Like, we got him. He's like, got what? I'm like, we're bit. And John turns around and he sees this marlin, like, and it's eating the bait. And all of our clients are sitting inside. We've got no one in the cockpit. And there was one dude having a cup of coffee in the chair.
Yeah.
And he was the only guy. He wasn't really, compared to the other guys, he wasn't as much into fishing.
Yeah.
And the other guys were all a bit salty on me for letting their marlin go.
Yeah.
And so this guy, I forget his name, but he was sitting and having a coffee. I said, I'll put your coffee down. And the bent butt rod was sitting in the rod holder of the chair. I said, just wind it.
Yeah.
So he didn't even pick the rod up. He just leaned, put his coffee down, and he wound the rod next to him. Swivel comes to the rod tip, and I just grabbed the leader, and that's when I hooked it, when I grabbed the leader. And we backed up on it. Because it was swimming, because the pursuit was drifting, they've got line angle. And so, this marlin was literally, 5 metres away from their braid.
Oh, yeah.
And I reckon that's why it was there. It was maybe checking out the fish they were bringing up or something.
Oh, yeah.
But we've hooked it, so we just backed up hard out. As soon as I hooked it, it just sit there shaking its head.
Yeah.
So I opened the door. I opened the back door, and it's right there. And I just kept wiring it up. I wasn't pulling back that hard. And, there's one thing I know about fish, they've got no reverse gear. They can only go forwards. So wherever that bill's pointing is the only direction that marlin can go. It can't swim backwards. So I just leaned down on the leader and pointed its head towards the door. And when it tried to take off, it just swam straight through the door. And unaided, I got this marlin on the deck. And from the time it ate that bait to the time we had it on the deck was about 20 seconds.
Yeah.
And it went silver. You know how marlin light up blue with sort of silver stripes. It went opposite colours. It must have gone into shock. It went silver with blue stripes, reverse colours. It looked at me and just was laying there twitching. And I was just like, holy heck. And the angler, the guy that the guy that wound 5 metres of line was just sitting on the chair looking. Yeah. And John's like, kill it quickly. So I get the old rubber mallet out. Yeah. And I gave it the light tap to line up my big tap. Yeah. And when I gave it the light one, it just went batshit.
Oh, yeah.
If anyone's seen a marlin go after it's hooked go crazy, well, it was doing that but inside the boat. And it kind of got itself half wedged underneath the footrest. I went inside, mate, closed the door.
Is old mate still sitting on the chair?
Old mate, no, he was standing on the chair by this point.
Oh, yeah.
He stood up on the chair. He was getting his legs the hell out of there.
Yeah.
And anyway, I went inside and... there was one guy sleeping on the couch, someone else reading a magazine, and I said, hey, you sookie bubbers, you got your striped marlin to take home. Yeah. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, we got you your striped marlin. And they came out, and the marlin had sort of wedged itself and had chilled out by then, so I gave it another couple of whacks. And all the guys on the pursuit are just cheering.
Yeah.
Whoa, they had the best seat in the house to see us catch this marlin in 20 seconds. And so the marlin's laying there, and all the guys, sort of wake up and come outside, and they're like, bullshit, these guys just gave it to you. Because they didn't know that we were going over next to the pursuit. And they're like, I was like, no, mate, we just caught it. And I was like, ask your mate. And he's like, did you guys catch that? And he goes, oh, I think so. The angler was like, I think I caught it.
Yeah. I wound the handle.
But an interesting thing with that, it wasn't big enough for the pinfish. It went 136, that stripey. But it was only and we got the gantry shot of the double, of them both hanging there. Yeah. And it was only about, I would say, 100 mil shorter, 10 centimetres shorter than the blue. Yeah. And the blue is 277, and the stripey was 136. Whoa! So it just goes to show how fatty. I mean, blues are bigger fish, you know, way heavier, but. Yeah, it was.
It's amazing,
incredible. Yeah, incredible. Yeah, and it was. I think we put 1 minute on that because you've got on the fight time on the board. Yeah. And I think it's already got written there, minutes. Yeah. For
so
fight time.
Put seconds.
Or maybe it's not. I don't know. But I remember we put 1 minute, but I'm like, nah, mate. There was no 1 minute about that.
Yeah. That's amazing, eh? But you must have endless tales like that from crewing.
Yeah. 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 Best job in the world. You know, shit, mate, don't start me, mate. We'll be here all night.
Yeah. Cool. So we just had a little toilet break and we're just eating some, what are they? Wasabi chips.
Yeah,
they're real good.
They're mean. Yeah. You want to get them to sponsor you.
Yeah, yeah.
Shout out to Heartland Potato Chips.
Yeah. Not the best noise to have with microphones.
No.
A bit noisy, but it's alright.
I'll just have this. I'll just smash these chips back.
Yeah.
Wash them down with this bit of beer, and then we'll pick it up where we left off.
Yeah. Well, we might as well talk about how the opportunity came about to work on the Ultimate Lady?
Yeah.
Because, pretty famous boat.
It is, yeah, it is. It's sort of like, it's sort of been a big part of both of my careers, if you know what I mean, in terms of being a crewman and then working on telly or media.
Yep.
And how that came about was the owner of the Ultimate Lady chartered us, as in being, when I say us, Primetime, for the Nationals.
Yeah?
Yeah. Which I thought was an interesting one, like...
Yeah.
And he'd booked a long way out. And we're like, oh, he's booked us for next February. John would tell me, the owner of Ultimate Ladies chartered us. Oh, so this is interesting. And then we realised that the 8 days that he chartered us for was for the Nationals.
Yeah.
And the owner of Ultimate Lady, being a very shrewd man, was part of why he's so successful. He wanted to figure out why we were catching so many more marlin and swords and stuff than all the other boats.
Yeah.
Like we were doing really well.
So were you doing well in the Nationals pretty consistently?
Yeah.
On Primetime? Yeah.
Yep. And just in other tournaments
Just in general.
and just in
Yeah.
general,
Yeah.
And that boat raised fish, man.
Yeah.
Like it raised fish. It just did. Like
Certain boats have that though.
Yeah. Yeah, it had underwater exhaust, so I don't know whether that was part of it.
Oh, yeah.
I do know that, and like they were downrated Scanias. I think they were 690s downrated to 500s, so I don't know whether that had anything to do with it or the underwater exhaust. I know that when I'd get chucked in the water to go and grab some crays or whatever for the clients, and the boat went over the top of you, it felt like someone was slapping you on the back. They had a good thump, eh?
Yeah.
So you're like, don't know whether that, but anyway. I mean, that was. There's no denying that. Yeah, while we fished hard and we paid a lot of attention to detail and we were really dedicated, the boat raised fish. That helped us a whole lot. But anyway, for whatever reason, that if that was the reason, no one else knew.
Yeah.
And so the owner of the Ultimate Lady chartered us, but he didn't just charter us on any knowing how secretive my boss was. The owner of the Primetime. He knew if he chartered us on any other week, we might hold back and not go hard. But he knew that we'd want to win the Nationals again. So not only did he charter us for the Nationals, he didn't bring his mates along with him. He brought his skipper and his crew.
Oh!
Yeah, so they could see what we were doing firsthand.
Yeah.
And I caught old mate Jerry, who I ended up crewing with, out with his camera taking photos of our lures, and I was like, "Oh, what are you doing?" Yeah. And we did win the Nationals, but those guys on board. It was a lot slower fishing. I think we only got 8 or 10 for the week, and it was close. There was another boat on the coast that got 10, and we got 11 or something like that. It wasn't great fishing.
Yeah.
But we finished that trip from the Nationals, and I got a call days afterwards, and Fred had decided that I'd be useful on his boat, more or less, So he rang me and just said, "Look, we want to offer you a job." And I said, "Look, no, I've got a job. I'm working on the Primetime." And he said, "So, well, why don't you just come and do a trip with us?" And he said, "So when's your last trip of the season?" I told him it was in June at some stage because we were doing swords through it all then. And I waited till our last trip of the season, and I don't know whether it just worked out or whether they waited for me, but they said, "Oh, we want to go and try and find the Whanganella Bank, and we want you to come with us." So I was like, "Yeah, man."
Yeah.
So,
had you heard about the Whanganella Bank?
Oh yeah, you just heard about it, like
Yeah.
a myth,
Yeah.
Mostly from commercial guys.
Yeah.
Because we had, we still had a lot of contact with commercial guys. I still do, and one thing we did know is that the charts were inaccurate, and it wasn't going to be that easy to sort of find it. And one great thing about the Ultimate Lady was that the owner has a real sense of adventure. He's not kind of like, well, let's just go here because we know to the Three Kings where we know there's going to be fish. He's like, if you think there's going to be fish out there, just go there. Let's just go. Let's pick the boat up and let's go give it a go. You know, point to somewhere on the map, kind of thing, which was exciting, man. Like you think. I mean, I was 20. I think I was 25, 20. No, I might have been 26. Maybe a little bit older. The skipper, Tom, he's the same age as me, maybe a tiny bit younger. We did our skipper's tickets together, and then the other crewman at the time, I think he was 21. And between the three of us,
lads.
the lads, and we had soul charts of this incredible boat. And I don't know if you or your listeners have seen the Ultimate Lady, but it's getting on in years now, but it still doesn't look out of place. It was so far ahead of its time. So this wave-piercing catamaran, we took on 25,000 litres of fuel. So, which is we would sit for a day. We would do shifts at the fuel jetty just because holding the bowser.
Yeah.
So the range was huge. I think it was 5,500 miles. Like if you were just of the boat, it was incredible. So it was the right boat for the job. And first off, we went west. Because there was a seamount that Jerry picked. He got first pick. So he picked the seamount that was about 180 nautical miles sort of west of sort of Rianga, due west. And it didn't exist. So we went and drove around the ocean. We called it Jerryville.
Yeah.
The mythical Jerryville, mate.
Yeah.
I think we found a little bump. But, in those days, a lot of that North Tasman Sea was charted before there was accurate GPS available. It was only available in the years when they did it. It was only when the satellites came over the horizon. So they only had a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
And when I was talking to some of the oceanographers, and one of the guys was on the boat, he said, "Look, we were knackered, man. We'd been at sea for weeks and weeks and weeks. And it was the last bit of the sea we had to survey. And we get these little windows. It's we just need to dot some data down on the bit of paper, and that was where, And if it was rough, we were getting dud soundings. So that's what some of these humps are in the middle of the ocean. It's just I don't know. It could have been a whale going under the boat or something, and they got an echo back off of it, and that's the bottom. Well, that's the depth, Yeah. It's not like there's it's getting cross-referenced. So we went. The Whanganella is a big area. But we spent, after being in Jerryville and finding nothing, we went back sort of northeast to where the Whanganellas is drawn on the charts. And there was, where it said it was 28 metres deep, it was 2,000 metres deep. Or 1,800 metres or something. There was just nothing there.
Yeah.
And we drove around for a couple of days, or a day and a bit, trolling lures everywhere we went. And we'd more or less given up, so we pointed the boat back towards New Zealand. And we were, it was rough, so we were just running 2 lures. And I was doing my regular evening washdown. I was like, shit, did I just see something swirl behind that lure? And then bang, we got a double. And we set the lures again after that. And I think we got a couple of fish. We got 4 or 5 in the afternoon. And because the boat was just on autopilot, and Tom rang up to the bridge. And when we hooked up, he said, shit, it's 400 metres deep here, which is the shallowest we'd seen for days.
Yeah.
So
New Zealand.
the bank must be here somewhere.
Yeah.
So we decided to shoot the sea anchor and stay the night. And just as luck would have it, we drifted up. And I think when we woke up, it was 220 metres deep.
Yeah.
And we caught 16 that day. and the previous best that the Ultimate Lady had done before that was 3 in one day.
Yeah.
And it was like my first trip. And obviously it was where we went, pure luck. And I remember the owner came out and says, boy, you got a job for life. You got a job for life. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so, that was when I started working from the following season on the Ultimate Lady. And that was a lot different than fishing on the Primetime. So on the Primetime...
There'd be year-round fishing all around the world on the Ultimate Lady?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we just did New Zealand.
Yep.
At that stage. It started going overseas the following year.
Oh,
so
okay. Yep.
my first season was pretty much, we were just up and down the Whanganellas. We'd found Disneyland, mate.
Yeah.
And, we were just going to go back to Disneyland every day, We were just, the things we were able to do, and some of the stories, and I tell people when... And it's the owner and his mates, and they're all good guys, but they're older guys, not young fit guys. And normally on a boat, if there's going to be a fight when you're game fishing, it's a fight over who's going to pull the marlin in, or whose turn it is to catch the fish. All the fights were about who wasn't going to catch the fish.
Yeah.
So I remember once it was actually Māori All Blacks versus England, I think, was because we had satellite TV on the boat. There was the rugby game on, and we hooked a 5-way. We had 5 on.
Yeah.
And we only ever trolled 3 lures, but and we'd run a long teaser, and we'd normally switch one off that, and then anyway, me and Jerry both decided to pitch a bait each, and they both got eaten, and we had the 3 lures hooked up, so we had 5 on. We turn around, there's no anglers. So everyone's inside watching the rugby, drinking beers. And I went in there, I was like, come on, get out of here, boys, we got them on. And one of the guys was like, no, I've already caught 4 today. And the guy's like, bullshit, you only got one of the hooks pulled, you only got 3 of them tagged. I've tagged 4 of mine, and like they were fighting over who had. And I managed. So out of like the 8 guys watching the rugby drinking beers, I got 1 to come outside, and we got 5 on. He wound in 1, and he's like, nah, I'm out. So the other 4 we wound in the rod holders.
Yeah?
And that's,
between you and Jerry.
Yeah. Like we just like dick winched them in. You know? Like, and it was, I've never been to a place where there was fights over who wasn't going to catch the marlin, because there was just that, there was that many, you know, like it was ridiculous. And yeah, I remember quite vividly one evening, and we caught 10 for the day, and our average when we were fishing up there was, I think, was 12 point something or other, because we kept accurate records. And in those days, you know, we didn't count a fish if you grabbed the leader. It was a tag in, like you know, tag in has to be seen, gone, and that's a caught fish, you know. And we'd tagged 10 for the day, but we'd missed a bunch, and they weren't switching properly, and I can remember we fully washed the outside of the boat every day, man, even at sea. Like that boat was kept immaculate. And I'm washing the boat down, I'm kicking the bucket of suds around, and I'm grumpy, thinking about all the fish we missed. And then I don't know what it was. I think I looked up and I saw the sun going down, and that's always a moment for me. I normally like to try and take them, if I'm at sea, it's like, yeah, I've done a full day and I'm going to spend the night out here. And it stopped me, and I thought, listen to you. I said, you go back to your 19-year-old self, driving around in a tinny, praying to catch 1 marlin. All you want is 1 marlin in your life.
Just give me that chance.
Yeah, that 19-year-old, if he was here, he would kick your fucking ass for being a sookie bubba and sulking that you've caught 10 marlin today. You know, like, and it was the first time I sort of, you know, got myself in check a wee bit, because there's just big ego with game fishing. And there is, and it's one thing I don't like about it. I mean, there's a lot to like, but it comes with the territory. It's sort of like, you know, I got a fish and it was this big, and this is how many we got, and then you always wanted to get more than the next guy. And when you're in it, like when you're in the game fishing thing, particularly in those days, you know, it wasn't all about, you know, getting your numbers or your picture up onto Instagram, because it didn't exist. It was all about the club and the points you scored at the club, and getting more, you know, being the top boat in New Zealand, all that sort of thing. And what I found is that when you're in it, you think it's the most important thing in the world, and like you're some kind of elite fisherman because you're in this clique and you're catching these marlin. What I realise is 99.9% of fishermen don't give a shit. You know, like it's not, you know, and I started thinking to myself, particularly as, you know, had kids and they started growing up, and, you know, fishing is one of those things that it's hard to measure, and that's why it's a difficult concept of fishing competition, right? So who's the best fisherman? The guy that caught the biggest fish, the guy that caught the most fish? Yeah. To me, you know, the best fisherman's the guy who had the best time, or woman who had the best time, or who had the most stoke. Yeah. You know, so is the kid that got out of bed and at 5 a.m. and rode their push bike down to the wharf and got their spot, and, you know, caught a yellow-eyed mullet and put it on and threw it out, and caught a kahawai, and it was a massive kahawai. It was the biggest one they ever caught, and they were pumped. Is it them, or is it the guy that won the tournament because he chartered a boat and turned the handle, and you know, the crew grabbed the leader and rah and said, hey, yeah, there you go, we've just caught you your 40th marlin for the season. You know, and that's when I started realising, and it took sort of having kids to realise that, you know, catching big, it is exciting and it's cool, man, and like, you know that, but the whole you know, ego thing of it, and, you know, I admit I was part of that, man. I thought I was real important because I was working on a big game fishing boat. I was working on the top boat in New Zealand, you know. I thought that was real shit hot. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, when you're on the boat, it's not like you're kicking back, you know, with your Maui gyms on, watching the lures, you know, waiting for another opportunity to grab the lure. You're you clean up people's vomit. You block a shitty toilet.
Yeah.
It's about, like most cleaners in places wouldn't do the things that crewmen on game fishing boats quite often have to do.
Yeah.
But you do it because you love it, right?
Yeah.
And that was always the reason for me doing it, because I loved it. I loved the thrill. I loved every minute. I loved the opportunity. But I still got caught up in that we want to be the best boat.
Yeah.
And it's and you don't seem to get it in other forms of fishing in the same way. You get it involved, I think when there was those sort of comps for weighing and big snappers and all that, you get a bit of that with a certain clique of guys that like winning those comps. But it still exists in game fishing. It's just a bit different now. It's all about, trying to get
Instagram likes.
Instagrams, like get you, and that's what worries me a bit for sure. He's in that thing, and I can tell, he loves fishing. He purely loves it, right? And there's nothing.
See him on that stingray today.
I know.
He was loving it.
There's nothing at all contrived about his love for fishing, but I can kind of see him through watching me, and he knows that I'm different in periods when I'm being filmed, right? It's like I'm trying to communicate things, and I'm conscious of how I talk and not wanting to alienate people, and it's a little bit different than when I'm just with my mates and or whatever. And of course, so he picks that up. So, and he's thinking, oh, geez, if I'm gonna get this, and I'm gonna put a picture on Instagram to think about it. And then he's worried about, are people gonna worry that I've caught too many snapper, or have they? And so he's trying to qualify things, and I think it's unfortunate. It's not just true. I see it with other kids. They're not just doing it for the pure love, and they are. He is still doing it for the pure love, but it taints it when you think you have to now tell the correct story on social media that is gonna tick the boxes for most people. And that's part of my livelihood. I'm stuck in that. I've still got to be a wee bit careful about what I do. I would say that I'm principled. I've never been shy to say, this is what I think's best for our fishery or whatever. Even when it wasn't cool to do so, like I was making noises about releasing a big snapper and not going and killing a whole bunch of fish just to get a photo of them for the smoker. Get one for a smoker. I was vocal about that before I started on TV, when I was writing stuff in magazines, and I got called, you're a faggot hippie and all of this sort of stuff. And now it's cool, and now it's cool to let fish go, and which is great. It's awesome, and one of the things that makes me most proud is if guys come up to me and say, I had to let my biggest ever snapper go because of you, you bastard. And they say it tongue in cheek. And my kids made me do it. My kids said it's a breeder, Dad. And I said, okay. and I said to them, and how did it feel? And they said, actually, it was awesome, mate. And it felt real good. And if not for my kids making me do it, I would never have done it, and I would have known how good it feels to just know you're doing the right thing. And they said, I've taken too many of those big ones home, and and not really enjoyed them, and I've taken them home to show the women folk what a great fisherman I am, type thing, And I think we're managing to shake that side of fishing off a wee bit. It's not to me.
Like part of that too. Like I hear it a little bit. You hear it on the radio too now when you're out fishing with marlin fishing. When they keep a marlin, I find that now everyone's trying to justify why they kept it. And I'm like, well, you don't need to justify it. No. Like, if you choose to keep it, you choose to keep it. Like, and I think about the amount of time, money, effort that I personally put into like marlin fishing. Like if I decide to keep a fish, it's going to be for the right reason. But then you still think of all that investment and everything that goes into it. If you go and catch a fish and you want to keep it, that's your right. You can choose to do that, but don't go out and kill everyone you catch.
No, that's right. I mean, hey, I'm 100% on board with what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I don't care how much money you spend. Okay, because the ocean doesn't care.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You know, like the ocean doesn't care that what you spent on your boat, or whether you got yourself, you know, a new TV and your 78-foot riv. You know, the ocean doesn't give a shit. You know,
Yeah.
a fish out of the ocean. So it should come from need.
Yep.
Need what's like the condition of the fish. You know, and a big part of what I do is why I release fish is because I know that what we do harms fish, and sometimes it harms them fatally.
Yeah.
And you'll come up and there's going to be a fish that's gushing.
Yeah.
Now,
Well, Shaw's sword's a good example of that, eh?
Yeah. Shaw's swordfish is a good example of that. You know, prior to that, I'd probably released my previous 50 swords before that, and the couple that were before that, I had 2 in a row that got sharked. And because I know that that's a very real risk, I let the healthy ones go, because you're going to get one that's not going to be any good to go. And I don't want to whack one, and then the next fish comes up and it's gushing blood from the gills, and now I've got 2.
Yeah.
You know, so it should be needs based, and you know, I've got absolutely no problem with anyone that wants to take a fish, but they need to ask themselves, am I taking this because I need a feed?
Yep.
Or am I taking it because I want to stand next to it?
Yeah.
You know, and you should get a photo. You should be proud, man. It's a big moment, and you put a lot of work into it, and you should be proud of it. But I say, if it's for food, well, I say to the guys, well, when you go snapper fishing and you catch a nice snapper, do you leave it on the deck with a wet towel over it all day? And then when at the end of the day, do you get your snapper and you hang it up by the tail and leave it hanging in the sun, go into the club and drink some beers, celebrate, and then go and get your hanging fish that's been outside now in the sun for 7 or 8 hours, and you send that off to go to the smoker? I said, if you're doing it for food, you know, respect it as food. So, I mean, the last marlin I took, which was actually for a guy that I crewed with on the Ultimate Lady, Randall, and, you know, like me, he'd been part of like thousands of marlin captures, but helping other people. He never wound one in, and we're steaming out off the hokey. He's like, I've just built a new fish smoker. He says, you know, I've never caught a marlin. I'm like, what do you mean you caught heaps? And he goes, no, I've never wound one in. And to me, catching one is being part of a team, right? So I've never
That's the way I look at it too.
You know, like the angler gets his name in the record book, but you know, as you know, there's a lot of other moving parts going on there.
Well, what's it like a shit? Oh, a good angler can't make up for a shit skipper.
Yeah, that's dead right. That's a good call. I haven't heard
but
that
a good skipper can make up for a shit angler.
Yeah, dead right, mate. Dead right. And a good decky for both of them.
Yeah.
And a good decky. The decky's never always. You know, it always used to piss me off. It was my pet hate. It was like the board would say, skipper, angler. You know, and no decky, and it was like, and like there were fish weighed in when the skipper was asleep. You know, like, the skipper was asleep, you know, and we caught swords, and I was just like, well, I didn't get my name up there, you know, so like, but I mean, so in the case of Randall's fish, we're off the west coast, and we switched one like early on in the morning. He's like, we all good if we keep it? I'm like, bro, if you want to eat it, man, we'll keep it. And nice quick one. I don't know, I guess it was around 110 kilo. We grabbed it, gave it the bat, so quick death. We pulled it inside the boat, and then within 10 minutes of that fish hitting the boat, Randall got a couple of photos with it in the boat. You wouldn't have even known we'd caught a marlin. It had all been slabbed. He kept the bill. It had all been slabbed, and it was on ice in the icy tech bin. And that fish was beautiful, because that's how you
looked after.
That's how you want to do it. And the other side to that too is in New Zealand we're part of New Zealand Sport Fishing Council is now, it was New Zealand Big Game Fishing Council, was one of the signatories in the marlin moratorium. And part of the thing there is we've got this great thing in New Zealand where marlin are a recreational only species. So within our 200 mile limit, commercial guys aren't allowed to catch marlin, because we all know of all the benefits to the industry and the economics of it, aside from the social value and the thrill that guys of you and I and thousands and tens of thousands of people get from it. But part of that deal is is that 50% of the marlin that get caught recreationally have to be released. And that's where the 90 kilo thing comes from. So they looked at the data and they were like, well, the club said if fish, if we don't count fish under 90 and they get tagged, well then we'll be pretty much abiding by our 50%.
Oh yeah.
But that was when the club, there were lots of charter boats around, and the likes of Harlequin, Striker, Primetime, us, we were doing lots of tagging. We were tagging 100 fish a year and killing 4 or 5, maybe. Yeah. Maybe we'd kill 4 or 5. So now that those charter boats aren't around, because that industry has been screwed by Maritime's New Zealand's ridiculous rules, and they've buggered that that industry. So now it's and the fact that trailer boats are so good and reliable now, and there's this open source information where we've all heard the stories of the guys that first day out and they've gone down to hunting and fishing and brought 4 lures and come back and caught 3 marlin or something. It happens, man.
Yeah.
There's enough knowledge out there, information out there now for guys to do it. So, but those guys aren't tagging the fish like the charter boats and the guys associated with the clubs and that understand the value of the resource. So we're breaking the marlin moratorium, rec anglers, and so I mean if the commercial industry said, look, hey, guess what? These rec guys are actually killing more fish than they're tagging now. Yeah. And largely it is trailer boat warriors, like wannabe machos, see a couple of big fish in their boat. They'll be the first guys to absolutely be going screaming murder when there's surface longliners running live baits of Jack Max strings down the
100 metre line
off Raglan, and there's 400 or 500 stripeys a day being pulled out of there, because it's been opened back up because the moratorium was broken. So I say, and the only way that a fish gets registered as a killed fish by rec is if it gets weighed at a club. So if you want to eat a fish, if your reason is to get a trophy from the club or get the photo, fine, that's all good. That's your reason. I'll respect that. But if your reason is I wanted to feed, well, don't wait at a club. Don't get a black mark against the recreational side of things. Look after that fish, And I don't just say that about marlin. I say about any fish.
Any fish,
You respect the fish. You eat the whole thing. You eat the head, eat the wings. I've been massive on that. I've started up free fish heads and I've done all of that. That's because I believe that we need to look after the ocean. We can't just sort of on one hand say, oh, watch out for those bloody commercial guys and stop them doing what they're doing while we're keeping the fillets and throwing the head and frame in the water, because that what that is, that's fish dumping. We're always complaining about the commercial guys fish dumping, and so how's it different when you're throwing hundreds or thousands of kilos, tons of fish back into the ocean because you only want to eat the fillets? So we've got to be careful, to stop sort of pointing the finger and respect fish, and part of that is, okay, if you want to eat a marlin, that's fine, totally respect it. Just don't leave it laying on the boat all day to dry out, and then go and weigh it at a club, because that's as soon as you weigh that fish, that's another extra one that's got to be tagged for us to keep our side of the bargain in the marlin moratorium. So, and we don't want to give a valid case for the commercial fishing industry to open it back up. Because then...
Because how long has it been like that in New Zealand?
I believe it was 80s. I believe it marlin moratorium came about in the 80s. And you talk to some of the guys that have been around a lot longer than me, and they said it was grim, man. 70s and 80s was grim for catching marlin. It was bad.
And then when did they start catching them in New Zealand? When was the first?
Early 1900s.
Yes, not that long.
So
not that long to make it pretty grim.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, it was surface longliners, so they were caught commercially. Like foreign vessels back then could fish within 12 miles of the coast. There was a big there was a local long-lining presence, but it was mostly foreign vessels.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, in this day and age, like you probably wouldn't get something like the Marlin moratorium to happen because the seafood industry in New Zealand have got it all locked up to themselves. Back then it was like, oh, well, it's just some foreign longliners that are going to, be kicked out of the fishery to make it rec only. No big deal, Whereas now, like the world's running out of protein, and it's just going to come down to pure economics. If the value of marlin flesh goes up, there's going to be pressure for that to go back to a commercial fishery. Yeah. And that's going to happen in our lifetime. There's going to be some people, the very nature of a corporate business is it's designed to make money and be a living entity. It doesn't have a conscience or a soul. It has a conscience or a soul as far as keeping up appearances and making itself marketable, which is why you make TV ads that show that you're such a caring industry.
Yep.
But the very nature of a corporate fishery is that it needs products to sell for as much money as it can get. And as other fish are running out, if marlin become valuable, they're going to look at it and go, well, we've got a whole bunch of them here. And they'll punch the numbers in and they'll go, we can make X million from catching these things and selling them. We've got a market for it. It's ready to go. What's stopping us? The Marlin moratorium. Well, turns it turns out, if we do some research, that the rec guys have actually been not upholding. So it's not valid. So let's put together a case to have it opened up as a commercial fishery. And when that happens, all you guys, mate, with all of your, who've spent all your money on your outriggers and your lures and all that sort of stuff, ain't going to be worth shit when you're trolling them around out there. Yeah. And those marlin are already being on their way and frozen on their way to Japan to be eaten. And so think about that next time you want to string one up. Is your, if just doing the right thing for the ocean isn't good enough for you, think about your own future. Of being able to continue to do it.
Yeah. That's crazy, Like I knew that it was rec only, but I didn't know in terms of like how that was formed.
It's more or less a gentleman's agreement, more or less,
Yeah, and it's like, it's sad that the charter part of it's not there anymore, It's like not. It was like.
And it's sad as it's not a real sort of pathway for young people, and I think part of that too is though, when I was talking about the ego in game fishing, part of that is because when you're a young fella, you want to make a name for yourself. You want to have a reputation.
It's anything.
It's nice to anything you do, whether you might be a footy star or whatever. You can't deny it's nice, to not be acknowledged for being good at something and getting slapped on the back, and that's really good. Well, this next generation actually don't have to do that. They don't have to go to a club and catch a pinfish and get recognised by their game fishing club anymore and have the 120 members of their club get it in a newsletter and get clapped on prize giving night. They can go out tomorrow, catch a photo of a snapper and get 1,000 likes. And when you ask young people these days, is it more important to you to get a pinfish for your club or to get recognised by your peers on Instagram? They're going to go Instagram. Well, I have asked the question, and that's what they've said. I'm not worried about that. So, just in the same reason, they don't need to unblock toilets and clean up people's vomit and all that to get a job on a game fishing boat, to do all the shit jobs, just because they want to, be great at fishing. They can get that acknowledgement by, going out with their dad or their dad's mate, dragging some lures around, snagging a marlin and getting getting a pick for the gram and getting their recognition that way.
And it becomes like CVs too, doesn't it? Social media.
It does.
Like, man, people can go on and look and see and be like, if that was the case, say all of a sudden charters did start up again, if you're a skipper, you'd be going through, I guarantee skippers would go for Instagram and look for young fellas that are keen into it and that are doing well and be like, all right, he might be worth a shot.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they're going to give them jobs, because
Nah.
you can bluff it a bit with
Oh, God,
social media,
fuck,
but
mate, you can bluff it a bit, mate. Look at me. Yeah, you know, like it's you know, it's there's so many Instagram, social media fishing superstars, mate. Because it's, you know, you go catch some fish, take some nice, and there's some people who take some bloody nice photos of fish. Yeah, don't get me wrong, and it's all good, but you know, they sort of haven't done that hours recreationally or commercially or just to sort of really have the chops. And a lot of those guys that are really good at fishing, and women, might not necessarily, like, unlike me, who's it's my business to make sure that, you know, people know what I'm doing, because that's how my sponsors get recognised, you know. So I've got to do that. But there's plenty of guys I know that are shit hot fishermen that haven't not ever put a don't even, you know, the
Chris
Instagram, they'd go,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. There's a name, you know, wicked fisherman.
Yeah.
Caught 2,000 pound blue marlin in New Zealand. No one else has done that.
Yeah.
No one else.
No one.
You know, like, so.
Didn't he catch like 30 in a year in New Zealand?
Blues?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I would believe that. You
That's
know,
crazy,
I
eh?
know. Just, like, amazing fisherman.
Yeah.
And you know, it's...
And
know,
people don't even know his name because he's not on Instagram.
That's right. You know, you don't measure how good a fisherman is by how many Instagram followers he's got. I mean, that's...
Yeah.
You know, like, there's just too... I mean, I won't say it. It used to piss me off. Like, now I just, you know, I know what it is, you know.
Yeah.
But there's so many people that are, you know, they've been given all sorts of gear and stuff, and they just haven't got the chops. They haven't done it, you know. Like, there's, you know, like, and I'm not just talking about, oh, they haven't caught enough big marlin or anything like that. Like, they just haven't learned fishing, you know, like, and that's one of my worries for sure. It's like, it's very easy for him to get recognition because he gets some massive opportunities to come fishing with me. When I was his age, I'd never seen a marlin.
Yeah.
You know, and he's caught massive swords and done all this stuff. But as I say that though, he will quite happily get on his push bike or even walk down the road and catch yellow eye.
Yeah, he was talking to me about this today.
He'll still froth and like he'll come back and go, I got 4 parori,
Yeah.
you know, and I've sussed out how to like get them to eat bread off the surface and like so. I don't mean in that respect. I mean, I just don't want him to think that you know. I talk about people being good anglers and good fishers, you know, and I'm, you know, like, don't get me wrong, there's some amazing anglers around that, hey mate, they can cast the lure and they can, you know, they can mechanical jig and they can do all of that sort of stuff. But it's a little bit different than when the conditions are less than ideal. Things are pretty shitty and you get put into a new area and say, okay, now go and catch a fish. Doesn't matter how good you are at jigging or casting a stick bait. Or how expensive your stick bait is, if you get thrown into a new area or you don't know the area, you know, you've just got to learn fishing. And while I was very late to game fishing in terms of, you know, a lot of the crewmen that were around in my era that sort of grew up in the Bay of Islands, you know, I grew up in South Auckland and I was commercial fishing for flounder and mullet, you know, when I was a kid. You know, I'd done 3,500 commercial hours before I finished school. Yeah, and that's because all my weekend.
Right.
Yeah, I know. So that's I just got them all my hours logged, so I could go straight to my skipper's ticket because I was going to be a commercial fisherman. That was all I ever wanted to be, you know. So to be honest, I didn't even know if I knew that there was marlin in New Zealand. I didn't read fishing magazines and that. I was just going to be a commercial fisherman. I loved it. I loved my rec fishing on the weekends and all that sort of stuff. If I had a weekend off, but when you learn fishing, like, I probably learned as much about how to catch a marlin when I was sussing out tides to when some mullet might push up over a bank, and just to recognising signs and how the ocean works and how baitfish works and what type of birds mean different things. So, you know, I wouldn't have known whether to use £100 leader or £500 leader on a Marlin lure. I wouldn't have known the first thing about it. All of those things are quite easy, but when you get a real base in fishing, it doesn't matter what it is. And that's why I find trout fishermen, if they get the saltwater bug, are excellent anglers. Like fishermen. Because they're good at recognising things.
Yeah. Reading.
And so... And I think it's just a little bit easy now for people to get successful at fishing without getting a real solid base and understanding, the environment and all that sort of stuff. And it's only when conditions are a little bit hard that, the guys that actually have that base over a long period of time can still catch fish.
Yeah, because there's there's a real art to being able to read the ocean, and just to see things. Like I've fished with Sean. I talked about Sean earlier. Like that guy can find fish. Like he's very good at it, and I just pick his brain all the time. I'm like, what are you looking at? What are you seeing? And he's good at explaining it. Yeah, he puts things very simple, very direct. He's like, this is what I'm seeing. This is why I think. Like, oh yeah. Sure enough, there'll be fish there. More often than not, but it's skill learned, It
is, and a big part of that is just trusting yourself, right? So, just remember what works when you went fishing. Like the tide was doing this, the water's doing this, and Shaw and I were out the other day, and it was slow, and I said, look, the water's cleaned up. The water's cleaned up and there's current flowing. There's going to be, we're kingy fishing at the time. There will be a kingfish here, and he dropped casting. So keep going, boy. I know that you're not. I know one thing for sure. Nothing's going to eat a stick bait that's still inside the boat. So keep casting because there's going to be a fish here. Yeah. He gets his biggest king he's ever caught. Yeah. Right? And afterwards he goes, oh man, you just knew there was. I was like, well, there's never 100% certainty. Yeah. And I was beginning to doubt myself. I was beginning to think, man,
looks like there should be one here.
There's tucker here. There should be one here. And I've done it enough to know that when you know that it's right, stick to your guns and stick it out, and have the belief that you're right. Even when you might be wrong, stick to something. Don't try and do everything and chop and change. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it's interesting you say that because I spoke to Bonds too. He talked about that on his podcast, and it's just trusting his gut. Yeah. He's like, if it looks right to you, trust that, and just if there's a reason that it looks good to you, then stick to it. Because you're then the end of the day, you've been okay, it looked good to me. You can be at peace with that. Yep. But if it doesn't, if it looks good and then you leave. Yeah. Then all you're gonna do is go home and be like, "Fuck, it should have stayed."
No shit.
Yeah.
Exactly. And another thing I say to a lot of people, and it's often just because of the nature of the fishing population in New Zealand, is about kingfish. It's like every Kiwi fisher wants to catch a kingfish, and it's a little bit different for you. You've got a lot of fishing experience. You've got a lot of good fish, but there's a lot of Kiwis that still, I want to catch a kingfish, man. I say, well, what do you do when you go and try? Well, they say to me, well, how do you do it? And I could tell them 100 different ways to catch a kingfish. So I say to them, well, what are you doing at the moment? Oh, I go out and we've got this spot here and we go and fish there, and my cousin caught one there a couple of years ago. It's like, were you trying to catch a kingfish? Yeah. We'll put a livey out sometimes, and if we catch a livey, we put it out under a balloon. I'm like, well, I tell you what you need to do. If you want to catch a kingfish, go and fish for it. And be prepared to come home with nothing. And that's what I say to anyone trying to catch anything. If you want to catch something, go and target it, and be prepared that when the dude comes up to you at the boat ramp and say, what did you catch? Be prepared to say, I got nothing, mate. Yeah. And feel fine with that. Yeah. Feel fine with that. Say, I went out, I targeted a sword today, I caught nothing. And I went out, I targeted a kingfish today, I caught nothing. Be prepared for that. Be prepared to come home and for your mates to ask you what you caught, or your missus to say, we got any fresh fish for dinner tonight? You go, no, actually I caught nothing because I targeted a kingy. Yeah. I could have gone to the old bloody Popper's snapper hole and lined up the pine tree, like my dad showed me, and we could have put the burley bomb and the ledges down, and we could have got us some panties. We could have done that, but no, I targeted fish and we got nothing. And I tell you what, more often than not, they'll get their fish anyway.
Yeah.
You know, that they target, but you've got to be, and Kiwis have got this thing, and again, it's all about, part of it's pride, you know, they don't want to come home with nothing, and part of it's just that, and it's not a bad thing, they want to come home with some food, right? So they're like, and they know, and it's like, you get every time you catch a fish, you get a endorphin release that's good. So you want to be catching, and you want to be feeling that buzz, and you want to be, oh man, we're going to have fresh fish tonight, and I'm providing for my family. That's a real human condition that we're pre-programmed to feel good about that. But if you want that big one, if you really want it, be prepared to forgo that easy, you know, the low-hanging fruit. And be prepared to stick it out, and if you really want to do it, you will learn and you'll catch one. And sticking with it is better than anything that I could tell you. I mean, I could tell people, okay, go to this mark and drop this colour jig and you'll catch a kingfish. But their own thing will they might give it a couple of goes and, no, this bait doesn't work. The tide's going, they might do it for half an hour and then they'll go back to what they know. So, stick to your guns, man. Stick it out.
Yeah. Well, we talked about that yesterday too.
Yeah.
You're like, I left all the kingy gear behind, so the boys didn't.
Yeah,
so like, should we catch some
catching kingies?
Yeah,
you know, I didn't even put it on the boat.
Yeah,
because I knew the fishing wasn't going to be great. You know, like tide's not good. You know, it was going to be hard. So, and when it's hard, the temptation is to just do something that's easy. You know, like I said, and then it wasn't until you said, I've never caught a blue nose. I was like, bro, you should have said we could have gone and caught you one. But we wouldn't have got your swordfish.
No.
If we'd gone off and caught a blue nose.
Yeah,
you know? So it's about like...
Yeah, but I'm definitely that sort of fisherman too. Like if I want to catch something, that's it. My mind's on it and there's nothing else.
Yeah.
Like, and I'll just go my wife gets annoyed because I'll go out days and days and days and days, bring no fish home I'll have, I'll catch a marlin and be like, wrap Taz, let it go. Come back and meanest day ever. She's like, bring your food home? No. Yeah. But it's just because that's what I'm focusing on doing. Yeah. And I'll take mates and they'll, should I bring a kingy rod or whatever? No, leave it at home because otherwise it'd be too tempting to. Yeah, it is. Yeah. And you can't do both. Like,
not well, you can't.
No.
Like,
you can flick
every
it
now and then
then
you get the golden day, man. Like, and I've had a handful of days in my life where we've gone, right, let's get a sword. Boom, boom, got a couple. Let's get now we've got bang, bang, and let's get a chuck lures out. Blue marlin. Like, that is, and yes, it's that's popped up on TV and that's been done. Yeah. But that's the exception, man. Yeah. Like, that doesn't happen. For every one of those days, there's so many. If you're chopping and changing, stick to your guns and get a plan and keep it real simple. And it's, I think in modern life, particularly when people are busy, they think, I'd love to catch a kingy, I'd love to catch a puka, and then they get a little bit of time off and they're like, I want to do it all that day. I want to do it. And so they've got all the gear for it. And they'll give something a little bit of a go and it doesn't work, so I'm going to switch now from trying to catch a blue nose to now I'm going to try and catch a kingy. So then they're steaming in and then, that's no good. So let's chuck a lure out and try and catch a marlin. But keep your plan real simple. Keep it real simple and go. Yes, once we've ticked this off and we're real happy, move on to the next thing. I'm not saying don't be adaptable. So I think be adaptable within what you're doing. So like if you're trying to catch kingies and jigs aren't working, you try a live bait or you can try different colours and all that sort of stuff. So, but don't try and catch every fish you've ever dreamed of on one day because it's unlikely it's going to happen.
Yeah, definitely. That talking about live baiting, a heap of people message me wanting to know more about live baiting for game fish, for marlin. I have my way of doing it, but it's not like I'm I haven't done the hours of the time that you've done. Yeah. Do you want to share a little bit of?
Yeah. I mean, I've always said like what you see me do is how I do. Like I don't hold back any sort of secrets or anything like that. Yeah. I'm not going to give you any GPS marks. No. But and I have changed my ways of of live baiting. Like I'm still trying to refine things, but generally, I believe that if you want to catch marlin from a small boat, you should use live bait. You don't have the advantage of noise that a big game fishing does for raising fish when you're covering ground. But I think that the playing field gets levelled somewhat when the fish are eating live baits and skippies. And if you can, there's been so many examples of when people have asked me what you've asked, and they've come to me. The first one was the Hohora One Base. Guy came up and said, I've been coming to this comp for 4 or 5 years, never caught a marlin, what do I do? We had a few strikes on the lures and they'll jump and they'll fall off and rah. What lure should we use? I said, mate, don't even use a lure. I said, get a skippy lure tomorrow. I said, he said, what should I do tomorrow? There's one day of the comp left. I said, mate, go off of knuckle. That was where there was a little bit of water when we went away, and I saw it. Go off knuckle, 120. If you can catch a skippy there, just put it out. And he goes, I don't have a tuner tube. I said, it doesn't matter. Just catch it, rig it, put it out. I've never rigged one up. I gave him like a little demo there in the marquee. Here, just do it like this, and oh yeah, sweet. And I kind of forgot about it. About 4 or 5 years later at the boat show, guy comes up and says, remember me? I was like, oh, I think so, which is...
Yeah.
No, you don't. I've met a lot of people, And he says, oh, you told me to go here, and he says, we caught a skippy, we put it out. He said 5 minutes later, caught my first marlin, and we got the heaviest striped marlin for the comp. He was like, mate, I'm just going to live bait from now on.
Yeah.
And that was just circle hook. Back in those days, I wasn't snelling onto the leader.
Yeah.
I snell now.
Yeah.
So obviously it's something I can't show you
listeners
here now, but
they can go on YouTube and see it though.
ultimatefishing.tv.
Yeah.
It's free, if you don't mind the plug, but it's
go
all
for
free, and they
I watch all of
we
them.
do step by step. So I snell now. Back then I just said, look,
it sits well over the memory of the
does.
line.
Yeah, it does. Just I think it's don't get me wrong, I still miss plenty.
Yeah.
I don't think you're ever gonna get them all, but I think it's improved my hookup rate is having that snell. I just said to this guy back then, that's when I was using the big number 64 rubber bands, and that's what I told him to use. And I actually think I gave him a handful. I had some in my pocket. They used to live on my wrist, crewmen.
Yeah,
But
all
now-
crewmen have got the mail
I
off
know,
their wrists.
yeah. So like my even like now, right next to my bed, my bedside drawer is full of rubber bands because I get home from fishing in the middle of the night, and go
Peel
to
them
bed
all
and peel all the rubber bands off and throw them in my top drawer. And like Mrs. always like, why is there rubber bands everywhere? I was like, can't explain. But so I think I told him a 64 rubber band, which I don't use anymore actually. I use a bit of Dacron, and I use a bit of copper wire with it as well.
Yeah.
And that just helps hold. It stiffens the rig up,
Oh yeah.
so it holds it off of the head.
Yeah.
So like I put the Dacron through, twist it round like normal, and you'll be able to see a video of this if you really want to see it.
Yeah.
And then for my last lot of twists, I hold the bit of copper wire down
Yeah.
against the hook,
Yeah.
against the bridle,
Yeah.
and twist it, and it twists it tight.
Yeah.
So you don't, so it's stiff, so the hook can't turn back into the bait.
Oh
And
yeah.
it stops the hook. You would have had it before.
Yeah.
Get the bait
I've
back
rolled
in
a
the
couple.
hook.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what the copper wire stops.
Oh yeah.
And what got me thinking about that was we were fishing like black marlin over the Great Barrier Reef, and we'd put a bit of hard plastic tubing. On the on your dead baits.
Yeah, on your dead baits to
And
get
so
that
like-
separation.
Yeah, and I do that with my dead baits when I'm bait and switching here.
Yep.
I use a bit of Lumo tube. That's because it's the only tube I got here.
Yep.
Just to hold the hook out off the head, but
Yep.
stop it turning back in.
Yep.
And our hookup rate on dead baits was amazing. I was like, how do I get a bit of tube onto a bridle rig though? Like for a
Yeah.
live bait, you can't
Yeah.
do it.
No.
So I just thought, bit of copper wire. It
Yep.
does. It's going to do the same job. And anyway,
It does.
so far so good. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's working pretty good. Like I think when I first started doing it, I think I got 7 from 8.
Yeah.
It's averaged out of not quite so good as that at the moment, but it's still pretty good, and
Yep.
I've stuck with it.
Yeah.
And it's
Or you haven't put a hook back into a bait.
what's that?
You haven't a hook hasn't rolled back into a
I've
bait
never-
since doing it.
Since doing that, I haven't had one come back with the hooks come back into the bait.
Yeah.
So I mean, fishing's about
Well, that's one variation gone.
Yeah, so people are, that go fishing are really focused all the time on what's going to work. You know, is this magic lure? Is it got the right amount of silver in it, and you know, to attract a fish? I'm less worried about what's going to get me a fish, and more worried about what's going to cost me a fish.
Yeah.
So eliminating all the little things that can go wrong. Because when fish are biting, mate, you can catch them on I've caught them on a banana skin.
Yeah.
Right? Like literally on film, the banana skin eating it.
Yeah.
I tend to just get hung up on the details. Are the hooks strong? Are they sharp? Is this, you know, is all the prep done? And the whole copper wire thing is not about doing anything special to attract another fish. It's eliminating another reason to lose one when you do get your chance.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, hey, I'm like anyone else. I do like a nice lure.
Yep.
But I'm not hung up on their magical powers.
Yep.
You know, like we were talking about the Whanganellas. Our most successful marlin lure up there was my film canister, my $4 Slayer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've run that in spreads and caught. Just like I've had them swim past everything to eat the $4 Slayer. You know?
That's awesome, man.
You know, so yeah.
That's a thing that I'm real focused on too, especially with the marlin fishing, because there's so many variables and things. Like Bonds helped me do it actually in terms of my boat setup. Like he helped me relay it all out and everything, and it's just everything's the same. It's repetitive. It's efficient.
Yeah.
So then it's like you're taking out a whole lot of elements that you could doubt yourself on, because you're like, no, I know it's all right. I know these rigs are right. I know that I've got my riggers set right. I know that the clip tension's right. Like, and the only variable now is the fish, which is something you're never ever going to control.
That's right.
Yeah.
And just all I can say to people is that you've done everything by the book. You've done it right. Fish comes in, bites, falls off. Don't change.
No.
Don't change. Like it's not straight away. You know, like there's so many variables. It's coming down to literally millimeters to whether that hook pulls into the barb or it doesn't, or the way that fish slashed at it. It's just before you make any changes, fish consistently. I'm not saying the way you start fishing is the way you should do it your whole life, but don't beat yourself up, man. Too many guys, I get messages all the time from people going, oh, I dropped this fish and I've dropped 4 in a row and I'm thinking I might do this, but should I do this? And my mate reckons this. I'm like, mate, stick to your guns. Like, I mean, one year, it was the second year I was on the Primetime, I just, you know, I spent an unnatural amount of time thinking about fishing, or, you know, not so much now actually, but back then, you know, like, I was like, how can we, and I was thinking about how a hook work and, you know, the physics behind it. So the pull of the line should line up with the tip of the hook to pull in, which is why I would go for closed gape hooks, because that's how they're designed to work, right? So if you put one finger in the gape of a hook and pull it tight, the point goes to its optimum position. So I'm like, why aren't we keeping it in that position? So I got all the leaders and I pulled the hook tight, and it kinks the, you know, geez, if I had a leader here, if I had a marlin lure here now, I'd show you. Yeah. In fact, sorry, it's not great to listen.
Go for it.
Here, so like, I'll
show me.
I'll show you, okay? So there's a marlin there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So most people, if they were going to stiff rig it, would go like that, right? So if you put one finger in it and you pull it, that's the position that the hook runs in, right? And see, now that point is parallel with the line to the pull. So for the energy that way, that's going to drive the hook in better. So I thought, here was me sitting out the deck of the boat going, right, I'm going to get the insulation tape out and I'm going to tape all of the hooks into that position, so that, you know, they're not swinging. It will naturally pull that way once it gets resistance, but I'm going to tape them in that position. So I taped them all up. It's the beginning of the season. We went 15 from 17 at the start of the season, and 5 of those were blues. I mean, blues, I reckon, do have a better hookup rate. That is do, in my experience anyway. So so that would have helped. But 15 from 17, and I'm like, I've cracked
the
it,
code.
mate. I have cracked it. We're like, mate, we're telling no one we're just going to crush it this year. Well, anyway, I think it was, might have been the Whanganella one base. Well, over the 2 or 3 days, we got 9 bites and we caught 0. and I was bloody, and then it sort of came back, but we stuck with it.
Yep.
We stuck with it, and we kept our hooks taped like that for the entire time, at least that I was on Primetime. I don't know if John still runs them like that. But you've got to be prepared to go through those troughs.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like you talk about that because that's how Sean rigs his lures. Exactly
does he?
like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay, me.
Yeah. So he's like, and I was like, "What do you do it like that?" And he's like, "I was taught to do it that way."
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, "Yeah, he learned it somewhere."
Yeah. Yeah,
Probably
well,
when he
it's
was
good
on
stuff.
there. Oh, probably not the Aranui because they switched on there, eh?
Yeah, no, maybe from watching blue water fishing. Blue water fishing techniques.
Yeah.
Which was my first instructional DVD.
Yeah, it might have been.
And I did. And like a funny, and this will tell you about the psyche of fishermen. I did a couple of just piss take things. Like so, I used to do these game fishing seminars. Where I'd sort of travel around, go to game fishing clubs, and dudes would turn up with their notepads and I'd talk people through just what I showed you. Like, tape the hook like that. It's going to drive in, and and I believe so I don't want to be facetious, but I really believed what I was saying, and I still do. I mean, I'm just not as hung up on that now, if you know what I mean, because I've done a lot more fishing, and I know that there's probably more uncontrollable things. But so I said to the guys, tongue in cheek, red tape, more bites, more bites. So. And another thing I'd do is I'd do a whipping. So like there wasn't the old locking at the back. It was just a bit of resin. So to get the hook keeled, go the right way, I'd use dental floss. I'd whip dental floss on.
And then jam it in?
Yeah, jam it in. Yep. So one of the things I would say to guys is double mint dental floss.
Yeah.
Tend to get more bites. It's a scent from the extra mint in there. And that's just my warped sense of humour. I'd say it with a dead straight face. And the tackle stores, like after I'd been in there, they would have to get in double mint,
dental floss,
and red tape, and they would sell it.
Yeah,
they'd sell the shit out of it, And then like when I've done piss take things over my career, like crayfish on soft bait and all that, and that was just because like we weren't catching anything, so like we get some crays, and then we did this like gag catching crayfish on soft baits. They sold out of those soft baits, and like the guys in the hunting and fishing stores were actually saying, that he was taking the piss, and I go, yeah, I know he was, but I'm just going to take him anyway. I want them for something else. But like fishermen are funny like that, and it gives you an idea into the psyche of a fisherman. Like everyone's looking for that magical thing that's going to catch them fish, and there is no such thing. It's a whole lot of little things. And yes, you might get that new lure, and it might be red hot for a month, and you think you've cracked it, and as long as you've got that lure, you're going to catch fish for the rest of your life. Nah, you wait till next season, mate. You wait till next season. There's no such thing.
Yeah, well, I've got mates that'll only put out lures that have caught fish, and they don't change them, so they'll run the same 4 or 5 lures like all the time in the same spots. And then it's like, why didn't you put that one out? Nah.
Yeah,
that one's caught a fish, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that one will catch one too.
But I understand that.
But then, I get that though too, because I'm like, well, if your mind works that way, if you're happy with that, then why would you change it? Like, because like if that was me, and I was like, I don't think that way, but like if I just know how my mind thinks. Like if I was hung up on, I had to have the same 4 lures all the time. If I put them out. And then a mate was like, oh, you should change that short rigger and put that one on there. And I'd be like, oh, okay. And I did it, and then we didn't catch fish. I'd be, fuck, it's because I changed that lure. I should have left it there.
Oh, man. And, don't get into superstition. You'll do your own here.
Oh, yeah.
Like, honestly, if you have a slight tendency towards obsessive compulsive disorder or anything like that,
Yeah.
do not get into game fishing.
Oh, I've
You'll
got
just
it.
oh man, yeah. So you'll just do your and and just as a almost as a public service to anyone listening, don't do your head in when you're not catching. Don't. I've done it to myself. I'm like, what am I doing? It's like, and half the time it was just because there's not been fish there. I'd be out. I was so keen. I'd be out there in November trolling my lures. I'm like, my lures are shit. I haven't had a bite. It's like because there's no marlin there, right? And now I'm the opposite. I use the since those early days, I've do a bit of hunting in that as well. So I've taken a lot of what I've learned from pig hunting to help me with my marlin fishing. And by that I say is you never see a pig hunter running around in the bush with a knife looking for a pig. The dogs go and do it. So January comes around and everyone's frothing, mate. They've been locked up all winter, and they're out. And most trailer boat warriors, mate, they're just like pigs. When they find marlin, they'll bark. They can't. They'll be on social media.
Yeah.
I'm getting bites and shit. And then you just go out and stick the pig.
That's such a good theory.
You let them build. You let them use all their petrol money and their days off work, and they early in the season, mate, send the dogs out. Send the dogs out, mate, and just keep an eye on your feed. And they'll start barking, mate, when there's a good bite.
That's such a good theory. It's so true though.
Yeah. So no, but I used to be a pig dog. I did my years as being one of the pig dogs out there. Burning up all of my savings on petrol money and just to because I just couldn't wait. But but older and wiser.
Well, when you've caught over 1,000, it's a bit easier to be patient, eh?
It is, yeah. And it is, and it's not a whatever, the number isn't relevant. But what it is just being kind of content, in a way, like there's still some fish I want to catch, but it, I was saying to you when we were sword fishing, it's like, I've caught the one that I always wanted to catch, and I got it, and that,
how cool is that story?
I know, and it's just and to be honest, sword fishing's more enjoyable for me now. Because
you'd love it, eh?
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it because I just know like how tough it is, and I just like they're a cool fish, and they challenge people, and I've just seen so many big tough guys get their asses kicked, and I just like love the laugh of it, and it's fun, and it's more fun now that I don't feel like I've got anything to prove, like I've got forget about all the numbers and all that. I just within myself I know like I always felt like, man, I need to get a real big one. And I got a real big one, and I didn't feel the need to kill it. We got some amazing footage and that of it, and let it go. And a lot of people said, "Oh, mate, you should have killed it." And it's like, well, aside from the actual sort of going against, like, if it had been buggered, I might have kept it. But I mean, we started 30 mile out, and it swam another 17. We were 47 miles out. There's no way we're going to get that thing in the boat.
No.
Right? And then we're going to bring it all the way back to shore. And we could weigh it and we could hang it up, and it would look impressive, that thing hanging up. But then what am I going to do with it? Like, you could say, you can eat it, but man, the amount of mercury in a fish that size, it's like, it's. And I was like, and I didn't even, before, when it first came up and I had it on the leader, like, I felt the first flutter of that old, man, I want to take this fish. Like, I felt it. Like, I felt, man, imagine what this thing would look like. Imagine what it would look like. We wouldn't be able to get in the boat. But, so I just, and then I was like, nah, that's your ego talking, man. That's not, like, you've won. This has been a 17-hour fight. You won.
Yeah.
Let it go. And then I didn't regret it for 1 minute, and I haven't since. Despite a lot of people saying, man, imagine what that thing would look like as a mountain. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
But, you know, I know.
Big ass house. To put
I know, yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that's...
You'd have to go on top of the Kiri sign.
Yeah. No, there's an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, I think when you're a bit younger, there's that drive to get that fish, you know, like to, and to prove yourself, you know, like you want to, you know, like particularly a young man, you know, that's your whole thing. And I loved it, and I loved the thrill when you were successful, but then the flip side to that is when you're not, there's dark times, and you put pressure on yourself, and then and I think that's when you start caring too much about your reputation, and that's your ego, when you care too much about your reputation. Whereas now I can just go out, like, you know, and I still want to catch the fish just as much as I ever did.
Yeah.
But there isn't really that sort of consequence, and that's an internal consequence. It's a thing that I would put on myself to, you know, I've got to deliver a fish here for my crew, for my, you know, whereas I don't.
Yeah.
I just love it.
Yeah, with the ego side of it, you lose the enjoyment.
You do.
Yeah, you forget to like
It's a double-edged
capture
sword.
the moment and what's happening.
Yeah.
Like it was quite interesting talking to a mate of mine, Thomas Maxwell. He's got Mad Max Sport Fishing in Whiringa. Yeah, he said, you know, he just wanted to catch everything. Like every time he got a fish on, it was just like, we've got to catch it, and he'd be barking orders. But then now he's kind of like, well, you miss so much, like, you know, especially with marlin fishing, they're beautiful and they jump and it's amazing, and if you're too busy shouting orders, running around, you don't appreciate what's actually happening right there and then. So he's just fully changed his tune. He's like relaxed way more on it, and he reckons, you know, now he gets one on, he'd be like clearing the gears, all right boys, take a good look at it, you know, like we never know, it might get off, like keep an eye on it, look at it jump, look how good it looks. Then people actually kind of take a moment and take it in, like, oh my god, that was amazing. But if you're all just mad rush panic, and then you're like, and then it jumps off, you've missed all that awesomeness that's done.
Yeah, you have, man. That you're so right, and I've gone that same path as well. Like I'm always saying to people, lift your head up and take a look. You know, take a look at that thing. You know, yeehaw. You know, whereas, you know, when you're in, you know, tournament fishing, and that's why it's a conflicted thing for me. Fishing comps, comes right back to what I said, gosh knows how long ago now, but it's fishing about who gets the biggest fish or who gets the biggest thrill, who has the best time. It's I think it's a personal thing. It's different for everybody. So we shouldn't get hung up on you know, my fish weighed this, or I got this many from this many bites. You know, it's
enjoy the people that you're with and there, and like tournaments are awesome for that as well. Like you meet some characters, and
the greatest thing about a tournament is it gives you a set of dates, gives a group of mates a reason to put some dates in the calendar and be there, and because we can always find an excuse not to do something, like the weather's not quite right, or the fishing's been a bit slow, or the water's a bit green and we won't go. Well, when you put your name down for a comp, you're going, right, and you can just go. And the fishing might be shit, but again, we go back to those.
Good time.
If you've got those, you know, if you work on those 3 important ingredients for a good day out, you know, the people, the weather, and the fish. You know, if you've got the good people, well then, you know, you're a third of the way there. You know, get some half-ass fishing or a little bit of good weather, you can have a good time.
Yeah, it's so true, eh? Switch baiting is an art to it, eh?
Yep. Yeah, there is, but then other times you can chuck anything in the wood. You can chuck anything in the wood, they're gonna eat it. Yeah. It's my, as far as catching marlin goes, it's the way I prefer to do it. For enjoyment. From a small boat, like I would say, if you wanted to catch, if you were interested in purely numbers and catching a fish, you get a spread of 4 lures with hooks in them, and you get everything right, you're probably going to get more. Some days you'd be better off switching them, but and I'm talking trailer boat. But you get a couple of guys that are reasonable at fishing, and I mean, don't get me wrong, you can bait and switch from a trailer boat. I bait and switch solo, you know, out of my little boat, just because I love the bite. You know, I love the bite, and you never get better bites than you do when you're switching. But you've got to be on point. You've got
Yeah.
to be looking at the teasers. You've got to have, your dead bait's got to be still sitting there and supple, and I get mine under a wet towel, and you're busy, so that's fine. If you want to be an active, keen fisherman, you want to go out with your mates and drink a few tins and have a bit of a laugh. Don't go baiting fishing. Because I've done it. I've tried to do both because I like both. Right? So I like baiting and switching, but I like having a few tins with my mates. And I'll be like, okay, you watch the teasers, and all right, sweet. And then have
a few tins, start yarning.
Have a few tins, and then pull a teaser in at the end of the day, and it's been smashed. Like, it's got brand new teaser. It's got bill rash all over it. I was like, were you watching the teaser? Oh, most of the time. So like, whereas so that is one side of it. It's like, but if you want to just get the most wicked bites, bait and switch, and the other good thing about it is, particularly for pure bait and switch, you've got no hooks out. So like having a spread of marlin lures with hooks in them, and a teaser, and a bait ready to throw out. That's not switch baiting. That's having an extra option, and I still do that, right? So like, it still works. But you've got to have no hooks in, because that's going to hinder your chances massively. So you've just got to go all in. And guys were like, wow, particularly guys that run lots of lures, so that they associate more lures, more chances. I've always said more lures, more fuck ups. Like more chance. So when I bait and switch, it's like two teasers, sometimes three. But like, particularly if I was like by myself, I just run a couple of electric reels or around my center console, and it's amazing. Like, you can still raise 3 fish at once on 2 teasers. Like, if they're there. It's all about keeping the, if you want to talk sort of technically, is the fish just needs to be able to see the bait and eat it quite easily. So I'd always pitch it, well, not always, but most of the time I'd pitch a dead bait first. So I just like, and nothing too big, like a small skippy, or a mackerel, like Jack Mac, perfect with just circle hook off the nose with a little bit of tube.
To get that gap.
Just to get that little gap, and I keep it nice and short, okay? Because you want the fish coming towards you all the time, and then like if you've got someone working the tease rod, you can really tease them if they need a tease. The main thing is just to not let them get a hold of it and get too good a hold of it. Some days it doesn't matter. Sometimes they can grab the teaser 10 times. They can strip out line. I've probably 3 or 4 times caught marlin on teasers with no hooks that have been wrapped on the teaser. So sometimes they can get a good hold. Doesn't matter. So like, to do it perfectly, you'd maybe let them get a little grab. I like to put a belly flap in. So
I've seen that on the videos.
They get a taste and it makes a difference. And we've done videos to sort of prove it, where we've done teaser with belly flap, teaser with no belly flap, and they grab the one with the belly flap. Man, like, it's that oil in there.
I want that.
And that just makes them extra hot for it. It helps you, and that buys you a little bit more time once they've had a taste, because that's just alerted another sense. Their instinct's been triggered by what they've seen and the vibration. And then the taste, that's just another. So that's just saying to them, this is good. I want to eat that thing. And then other times, you can get the teaser away from them, and then they won't eat what you put in front of them. And it's just the way it goes sometimes. Other times, doesn't really matter what you throw out. But like, so technically, I like to. I don't run, like, if I'm bait and switching, I don't have my teasers real close. Like, I might have like, if you were to have a marlin spread and then a teaser, which I don't do, like, so if I've got hooks in, I'm like, no, I'm not putting a teaser out, because I don't want a marlin to come up and not eat take its first big aggressive bite at something that doesn't have a hook in it. If that's my mode of fishing. So, and I know other guys do, and they do it to good success, and very good fishermen use teasers. I just don't. I put a teaser out when I'm going to be bait and switch. And so I like to have them a little bit further back, and it just gives you a little bit more time, so you can get your bait in the water and in the right position, and you can start your turn. So I typically, If it's
So if you were going to run 2 teasers,
yeah.
would you run them where, like when we were on your boat yesterday, where you had your riggers? Is that
No,
where,
no, closer next. You got to be able to see.
Yep.
You got to be able to see.
Yeah, a
as
little
well.
bit too far.
And again, trailer boats, it's not ideal because you're
Don't have
down
the height.
low level.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're on a flybridge of a game fishing boat, or even better a tower, you see a lot, man. You just see like 3 or 4 times the amount of fish that you would from a trailer boat. And an interesting sort of
my boat, they have to put their fin out of the water.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I'd sit at like the water level.
Yeah. An interesting anecdote I will say is like where that elevation helps you is that you see them earlier, because sometimes a fish can be in your spread for a while before it will pop up onto the surface. What I will say, if it never pops up to the surface, if it just follows your lures down low, you're not going to get it to eat anyway, or very rarely. When we first started towing tow cameras, like, and you know, I made one, not in this shed, but you know, my other shed out Taco Bay out of an old Maglite torch, and you know, I think I imported the camera from the States, a little Sony camera, and we got it to swim, and yes, we can see, we hooked it up to the TV on the boat. We got a live view of what's happening under our lures. Well, shit, we were amazed at how many fish we were raising. Like, even like the Ultimate Lady, you know, that tower is massive. Up high, it could be calm as, sun's overhead, and we'd be downstairs looking at the TV, Tom's up in the tower, view of the spread, and I'd walk outside and go, Tom, we got 3 up, and he's like, he can't see anything from the tower. So we were seeing fish that you couldn't even see from the tower. We'd raise it, and so we thought, right, we've cracked it.
Yeah.
Right? Like I always wondered as a fisherman, how many fish are we raising in a day that we never see? And I thought, wow, mate, we're raising these fish. We know now that they're there. We'll just slow down and pitch a bait. Yeah. Well, that's what we do. We're raising these fish, and they were sitting sometimes 15, 20 metres down, just swimming below the spread. Sometimes they might come within 4 or 5 metres, but they weren't really coloured up. So,
they just sort of come up and...
But either way, you couldn't see them from the surface, right? But we could see them on the tow camera. They were there. Sometimes it might be 1 fish, sometimes it might be 3 or 4. So we'd stop, pitch a live bait. They wouldn't eat it.
Yeah.
Never one. Oh, once I think we got a bite. The advantage was it taught us where they were. So we could come back to that area, and eventually those fish would eat.
Will come up, yeah.
But as soon as they break the surface, they're the ones you're going to get a bite from.
Yeah.
The ones that never break the surface, even when you pitch a bait, very seldom eat.
Yeah.
And they definitely, if they don't come close enough to the surface to see them from the surface, like if you could only see them on the tow camera, I think only once out of God knows hundreds of fish that we ever got a bite out of one.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So that will be comforting, I guess, for people that aren't looking at a TV screen and knowing what's in their gear. Yeah. Is that they're not a fish that would have bit anyway.
But it's good
what
to
it
know
does, it
where
tells
they
you
are.
there's fish here.
Yeah.
And so you can just stay in the area.
Yeah.
And eventually, when those ones do pop up, you will get a bite.
You'll get a shot.
Yeah.
Shit, that's interesting, eh?
It is, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I always wondered that, like, I think every fisherman thinks that, eh? Like, I wonder how many I ran over today.
Too much time thinking, mate. Game fishing. Too much time. I think that's why so many game fishermen drink beer, mate. It's just to stop the noise in their head.
Just
stop all the voices in your head going, oh, you should be doing this. So I've got to give another slash, bro.
Yeah, bro. Cool. So we've just had another toilet break, but we're gonna slowly start to wind it up. So I thought it'd be important to ask you, what's the best fish you've ever caught?
Best fish, easy.
Easy.
Yeah, no. I mean, there's a black marlin that I got in 2010, I think. I know it was when I was already signed up with Discovery Channel. I know that because they keep me really busy.
Yep.
Catching fish that I didn't really want to catch. You know? I like doing things. Cause it was the first sort of period where I wasn't just making TV of the stuff that I wanted to do. It was like there was all sorts of people involved. But I had an opportunity to do a bit of fishing for myself, and I'd never caught a black marlin in New Zealand waters. And I'd caught at that stage, well over 1,000 in New Zealand waters, lots of blues and stripies, and I'd seen
Had you
some.
any shots at blacks?
Not 100% confirmed ones.
Yep.
You know, like there was some that I suspected were
Yep.
blacks on baits, and I'd seen black marlin, or I'm pretty sure they were. But I'd never even really had a close call. Like I got one on, and it was I just not got one. And as you know, they're not that common here. So I had a couple of days off from discovery stuff, and I'd actually just done. I used to have to fly down to Auckland from here to do voiceovers in a booth, they could connect up live with the studio over in San Francisco, and then there was a producer in Washington listening to it all. It's
Crazy.
Not like the old ITM fishing show, do it in the shed. Like we used to do our voiceovers under a duvet in the wardrobe, and I used to have to wear a headlamp to read my script, which I'd written on a bit of refill pad, with a headlamp, like recording it into a Sony Handycam, like that was, so that was all a bit different. And but anyway, my voiceovers in the morning, and so I flew into Kerry, got back home and saw the forecast was mint for the next day, and I'd said, I want to go and catch a black marlin, and so I went out, and that afternoon went out Whanganella Harbour and caught some kahawai and some big jack mackerel. And what I do know about black marlin is the best way to catch them is a dead bait. Most of them probably get caught in New Zealand on live baits, but that's by accident, Like they just respond well to a dead bait, does the black marlin, and that's just from fishing overseas for them, and I'd caught some big ones overseas.
Do they need to be like skipping?
Yeah, skippers and swim baits, and I haven't done enough to be an authority on it, like far from it. And like some of the guys, but I've spoken to some very good fishermen, and like all of our good ones that we got on the Great Barrier Reef and Aussie were all on what we called our big bait, which was we were running 3 baits. We'd run like a rainbow runner out back. And like a big Spanish mackerel or a yellowfin, if you could get one. It was like the premium. They're just hard bait to get. A yellowfin, skipping yellowfin, mate. Like big splashing bait, noisy, and then we'd have a swimmer like a queenie or a scad. Would be our swim bait.
Yep.
And we got a couple on our swim bait, but like for our particular bait, and then other boats would swear by their swimmer. So, and it's a real art to get a dead bait to swim properly, and I've seen, I'm pretty ordinary at it, but if I muck around enough, I can get a bait to swim pretty good. And so I went and caught these.
Just talking about that, like with the swimmers and that, do you reckon there's something to waves on boats, like where?
It's where they work, man. Like it's where they work, and that comes down to the thickness of your leader, and like drag, and how you're ringing, how you're weighting your swim bait, and there's so many variables. It's just what works.
What about like a hot spot? Like certain boats have a spot, like your was the big bait, right? Yeah. And other boats would be their swimmer. Do you think that was just relative to that boat and where it sat?
It could have been, man.
Yeah,
but
you never know.
It could have been, but you always go back to what you know. So like, I just thought I'm going to have a real tilt at catching a black marlin. Going back to the advice I've given to everyone else. If you want to catch a fish, go and target it. Ask myself that same question. Like, yes, I know it's incredibly slim odds to catch a black marlin in New Zealand if you go out and target it, but I said to myself, be prepared to go out and catch nothing. So okay, I'm going to go out. So I got back, what day of the week it was, but back in about lunchtime to Kerry, got my little 9 Stavy it was at the time. It was a little with 40 horse on it, centre console. Went out in the harbour, caught some jack macs and iced them all down, and stitched a few up that night. And I actually stopped at the Marlin Hotel for a couple of pints. And,
great place.
Yeah, it is great. So doing what we're doing now, talking shit about fishing with beers,
so
at the Marlin Hotel, and Dave Arrell was there, and one of the sort of legendary Whanganella skippers, and and so he was there with his crewmen, and they were on the source, and they were waiting for their client to turn up. They had a charter, and I was talking to a few guys, and quite a few guys had caught marlin that day. And they go, what did you get? And I was like, I got a few jack mackerel and kahawai. So they start giving me shit. Good day out then, was it? I was like, no, these are my baits. And I'd had unfortunately for me, I'd had a couple of pints, and I said, that's because I'm going to catch a fucking black marlin tomorrow with these baits, boys, so shut up. You know? And as soon as I said it aloud, I was like, what a dick thing to say. Like, you know, I've just got to run my mouth off that I'm going to go catch a black marlin tomorrow. So, rigged a couple of baits up that night, launched my bait crack of dawn off the beach at Tenari, and I thought I'll start by live baiting. So I caught a couple of big kahawai, I just live baited those around the taiki. And people have said, I mean, you said to me, oh, you knew that fish was there. I didn't.
Yeah.
I knew there had been lots of black marlin caught in that area over the years, and it was a good place to start. But like, I hadn't ID'd it or known it to me off that there was one there.
Because they're territorial, right?
Yeah, like, once they turn up and there's food, there's no real reason for them to leave, right?
Yep.
So they're going to be there. And I live baited till about midday, and I knew the weather was only good for the morning, and it was coming to low tide, which over in Great Barrier Reef is when you get your bites is on low tide.
Oh yeah.
And from what information I had learned about New Zealand up to that point, being quite a few caught around the low tide as well. So I said, right, I want to be doing skipping baits at low tide. So I
That's interesting because that black marlin I hooked was on low tide.
Low tide.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There
Crazy,
you go, mate. Yeah. So there's something for your listeners.
Yeah.
And so I rigged a swimmer. I'd already rigged it the night before, and rigged a skip bait. But I'm only no outriggers, I'm only a little dinghy. So I had 550 pound or 600 pound leaders. They would have been 600s then actually, 20 baro circles, like the actual giant black marlin rigs that we were using I had. But just the weight of the leader and the hook, without outriggers, I couldn't get the bait to skip. So to get the bait to skip, I had to drop down my leader size. I had like a 480 pound pitch bait leader with a 16 baro circle. So I put my skip bait onto that. And to get it to skip, I had to have it so close to the boat. I had the double knot tied to a rubber band and on my 8-foot long tag pole sitting in my rod holder. So it was skipping off the back of the outboard, more or less, and my swim bait, I rung back a little bit longer, and it got rough. Got up to about 15 knots, and there was quite a bit of swell. We were getting beaten up, and Dave Shaw, our cameraman, and he was huddled up under a bloody raincoat up the front of the boat, spray pissing over him, just getting slammed in this little tinny. And here's me determined, because I've shot my mouth off, to prove a point that I'm going to catch a black marlin. And the rubber band wore out on my swimmer, and I just replaced it. I was just putting it back over the cleat, and I just put it there, and I was looking at it, and it cracked. And I was like, and I said to Dave, that's a bite. So that was good that we were able to preempt it, so he was able to get the camera rolling and sort of get out from under this little huddle up the front, up the bow. And I was looking back at the swimmer, and then the skip bait that was right off the back of the outboard just gets smoked. It was a jack mackerel, big jack mac gets smoked. And the footage will be around. It's obviously it's been on TV heaps and that, but I didn't say it was I knew it was a black marlin. I saw it, but I couldn't even bring myself to say it. I said, it's a big marlin, a big marlin. And it was like not happening. It was so surreal, and I didn't want to jinx it by saying it was a black marlin, because I was like, shit, this can't be happening. And he went crazy anyway. My mate Steph, who you were seeing out there yesterday, he's out there all the time. So, and I knew that he was out fishing, and essentially I'm by myself. The camera's not going to do anything. I've got a black marlin on. I calmed myself down. I just pulled my swim bait in, got myself harnessed in, started driving the boat and closing the gap. Like I said, I want to always with a big fish, just want to get close to it as soon as possible. Shorten the gap, and then you're more in control. There's less up for chance. I'm closing the gap, and I thought I'll give Steph a shout to see if he's out here in case I need a hand. So I called Steph on the radio, no answer. But Dave Errol heard me, who I'd seen at the pub the night before. One of the legendary skippers. He was out on his big yellow boat, the double strike. And he was like, oh, Matt, is that you? I'm like, yeah, it is, Dave. He said, where are you, mate? I said, I'm off the Cavallis. He said, well, how are you getting on? I said, Dave, I'm hooked up to a black marlin. He says, mate, you're having me on. Because he was one of the guys that I was at the pub shooting my mouth. I'm going to catch black marlin. He goes, no, where are you? What are you doing? I said, no, Dave, I'm off the Cavallies and I'm hooked up to a black marlin. He goes, no, you're not. I'm off the back of the Cavallies. And there's no other boats here. I said, I can see you. And he goes, nah, what are you talking about? I was like, mate, I'm in a dinghy. And I said, wait for the swells.
Yeah.
And I popped up and he goes, is that you? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, you're on a black marlin? I'm like, I am, mate. Honestly. He's like, holy shit. Do you need a hand? I said, well, I'm going all right at the moment, but just stand by. And so anyway, he goes, right, I'm pulling my gear and I'm coming over. And he says, you got a gaff? And I said, oh, no, I think I did. Like, fixed head, actually. I didn't even have a flying gaff. But I said, look, I don't want to take it unless it's over £800. Like, if it's over 800, anyway, it jumped right in front of him as he's coming over. And he called me on the radio. He goes, that's over 800.
Yeah.
And I didn't think it was.
Yeah.
Like, and I didn't want to disrespect Dave, you know, he's an experienced game fisherman quarterly, a lot of black marlin and that too, like a lot of fish. But I thought maybe he was a bit excited. So I just said to him, nah, I'm all good, Dave, you know, like I don't need any gaffs. He goes, mate, I'm getting my flying gaffs. I said, I'm going to put my decky on board with you and I'm going to send a couple of flying gaffs just in case, mate, because it's a big one. And I'm like, okay. So, and this is all on film, but he's backing up to me. And as he's backing up to me, he calls me on the radio. And I'm worried about, like, in the swells and running over the top of me, mate. I'm still in a bloody dinghy.
Yeah.
Not only that, I just don't want anything to bugger up this marlin. But I'm feeling like I've got pretty well under control. But, you know, Dave wants to do this. That's what you do, you know. You help out your mates and that. So he just wants to help. And he's backing up to me. And he just said on the radio, oh, you're just going to have to tell her what to do. She's pretty new. I'm thinking, and I said, did you say her? And that was not to be sexist. That was because I knew his decky was a bloke and had been his decky for friggin' ages, and they were at the pub together the night before.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll back the bus up. Unbeknown to me, that night, both full of piss, they get into a fight. And Dave sacks his decky.
Oh.
That night, the night before a charter, right? I was about to leave. And there's a French backpacker, young lady, staying in the hotel who's looking for work. Old Dave says, do you want a job? And she says, yes. So it's her first day on the job.
Yeah.
It's her first day on the job. She's a young French woman. And backing up to the boat, and I see this blonde woman at the back of the boat holding gaffs and trying to figure out how to work gloves. And she's holding these giant gaffs thinking, what the hell? Anyway, she passes the gaffs over, boat smashed together, she falls ass over tit and lands on my boat.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, g'day. And she's like, hello, my name is Audrey. I'm just like, what? And I'm just thinking, what the hell's going on here? And I was like, how many marlin you caught? She says, I've never seen the marlin before. Yeah. I don't know. You know, I don't know. I'm just like, fucking hell, Dave.
Yeah.
You know, what have we
Stitch
done?
me up here.
And so, and then literally within less than a minute of her landing on the boat, the swivel hits the rod tip.
Oh, it's there.
Yeah, it's there. She hasn't got full wiring gloves on. She's got cotton gloves, snotties. And I just said to her, don't wrap it around your hand. Just hold it. And see if you can hold it long enough for me to unclip. So she held it, strong. She held it. And I got one wiring glove on. But I wanted to hold the rod in case we had to dump it.
Yeah.
And I was just reaching over and I could do a wrap and pull. And then she would pinch pull.
Yeah.
And we got it up. Got alongside the boat, got the tag in, and Dave's like, oh, you know, Dave was like, oh, old school, gaff it. And I was like, nah. And
was he? Oh, Dave.
Dave Arrow, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So Dave was right there. Like, not Dave the cameraman.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
He was filmed the whole lot.
Yeah.
Which is amazing, you know.
Yeah.
And I've said this about one of the greatest things about my career is that some of the greatest things I've done in my life, like what I'm telling you, has been filmed.
Yeah.
So it's there forever, you know? So it's there as a record of one of the coolest things I've ever done. And so I'm all stoked, and I was just going to let it go. It was about £500, which is still a mean fish, but still nowhere near the biggest that I caught. But took the hook out, let it go, and it swam away. And I can just remember thinking, if I'd woken up this morning and said, I'm going to go out and catch this black marlin that I said I was going to, and there was going to be a French woman on the boat with me when I did it, I was going to be like, you can't even make that shit up, right? No. But that's the way it played out, you know, and that's what happens when you sort of, you throw your bloody name in the ring and say I'm going to go fishing and try and catch something special, and sometimes it works out even better than you could have imagined.
Targeting what you're saying you're going to target. Right.
And that's why that it's just the circumstances around it that made that fish to this day, I think, the best one I've ever caught. There's been a lot harder and there's been a lot more dramatic and you know, all that sort of shit. But
it was a 17-hour swordfish.
Yeah.
Or nearly 18 hours, wasn't it?
Yeah. So those ones still, you know, all live long in the memory for various reasons. But your question was, which was, you know, my best, and that was my best. You know, like I felt the most satisfied at the end of the day. Going, and I got lucky, you know, even the way the circle hook wasn't in it properly, it was wrapped over the bill and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So I had some luck going my way, but you know, still the best fish I ever caught, that one.
You caught it.
And I got him.
You got him.
I got him, yeah.
Nah, mean. Oh, Matt, that's that's 3 hours of listening pleasure right there.
Oh mate, no, stop it. Yeah, well, I mean, hey, there's still plenty more, and like I say, I'll come down for a Chiefy's home game and we'll delve into it over a few more jars, but mate,
no, it's great insight.
Yeah, the roast sitting there with tinfoil wrapped around it, mate, and it's calling my name.
Yeah,
and yours.
Yeah, mine.
Yeah.
Nah, thank you very much for coming on, bro.
Okay, brother.